Chapter 1556, Mortal Energy Fruit. Each bottle has a description of the medicine inside. Not only is there medicine for healing wounds, but there is also medicine that can recover your Saint Force. Coupled with these Class 8 and 9 monster cores, this should be enough to recover some origin energy. Tianjian pointed at the stack of boxes as he spoke. Really? Then let me try if they're tasty or not. Xiao Ling's eyes lit up. She leaped up and grabbed a jade bottle that contained pills for recovering Saint Force. She gently shook the bottle and the pills rattled around inside. It sounded like there were more than 10 pills in the bottle. Without any hesitation, Xiao Ling opened the bottle and poured them all into her mouth, regardless of how many pills there were inside. She chewed a little before swallowing. Everyone stared at Xiao Ling. What Xiao Ling was doing right now was testing the medicine. She was experimenting to see how great the effects were on Origin Realm experts. They would know very soon. Xiao Ling frowned after a few seconds. She pouted and said in dissatisfaction, "They're not tasty at all, and they only recovered a tiny amount of origin energy, basically the same as not eating them." Everyone was disappointed. However, they did not become dejected. They had expected this long ago. After all, these pills had been left behind by past Saint Emperors. They might be very effective on Saint Emperors but not Origin Realm experts. Houston picked up a Class 9 monster core. Blood-red mist immediately churned from his hand, enveloping the monster core. The monster core immediately began to shrink in the dense mist. It completely vanished in a moment, refined into pure energy and absorbed by Houston. No, the Class 9 monster core doesn't have any great effects on us either. It can't recover much origin energy at all. It's better to use these monster cores for maintaining the formations of the Divine Hall. The Saint Kings and Saint Emperors can use the pills. Houston shook his head. The things that Tianjian had brought out from the treasury were unable to help the Origin Realm experts at all. At this moment, an idea appeared in Jian Chen's head. He suddenly thought about the many immortal tier heavenly resources he had obtained from the Xianhuang microcosm. Among them was a fruit that specialized in recovering energy. He wondered whether the fruit would work on them. Jian Chen immediately removed a few of them from his space ring. Each fruit was only the size of a walnut and was pure white. They appeared as glossy as white jade and looked lovely and cute. They gave off an intoxicating fragrance. The fragrance coming from the fruits attracted everyone's attention as soon as they appeared. Everyone's gazes all gathered on the fruit in Jian Chen's hands. Xiao Ling could not help but gulp. Her eyes burned as she stared at the fruit. The fragrance attracted her, tempting her to eat them all in a single gulp. These are mortal energy fruit, an extremely high-grade heavenly resource. It's said that its only effects are to recover energy. "I think it will really help you recover your origin energy," Jian Chen said. The sword spirits had told him all this in the past. All he knew was that they could be used to recover energy, but he would only know if they could recover origin energy after trying. "Brother, I'll try one first." Xiao Ling eagerly grabbed the mortal energy fruit from Jian Chen's hands and immediately wolfed them down. Xiao Ling seemed to still be unsure when she ate the first fruit, but when she was just about to eat the second, her face suddenly turned red. She felt an extremely pure and vast energy fill her body as soon as the first fruit reached her stomach. Before she could say anything, she sat down and devoted herself to refining the tremendous amount of energy. All the Origin Realm experts rejoiced. They could clearly sense Xiao Ling's presence rapidly strengthen. They didn't need an explanation. The mortal energy fruit worked on Origin Realm experts and the effects were extremely impressive as well. Half a day later, Xiao Ling finally roused. Her naive face immediately became filled with joy. She happily said, "Brother, this fruit really can help me recover my origin energy. I've only eaten one of them, but I've recovered all the origin energy I've used up." "Fantastic. That's just fantastic. We can last even longer with these fruits. Brother, how many of this do you have?" Changyang Mingyue also became overjoyed. She eagerly looked at Jian Chen. Everyone smiled. The appearance of the fruit gave them exactly what they needed when they needed help the most. Everyone looked at Jian Chen. They really wanted to know how many mortal energy fruit Jian Chen possessed. If there was enough, they could last for 100 years or even longer. However, if the fruit presented before them was all of it, they would not be as useful as they had imagined. Jian Chen could not help but feel confident when everyone looked at him. He said, "Don't worry, there's definitely a lot of them. There's enough to last you guys a very long time." Jian Chen waved his hand. Over 300 wooden boxes flew out. All the boxes had been created from the wood found in the Xianhuang microcosm. They all seemed like rough handiwork. There was nothing special about the boxes, but what they stored could be described as heaven-defying treasures. Jian Chen had found several mortal energy fruit trees, so he had collected over 500 fruits of various grades. He took out over 300 of them all at once and shared them with the Origin Realm experts present. Tian Jian was still a Saint Emperor, but since he was critical to controlling the Divine Hall, he obtained some as well. Fantastic. With these mortal energy fruit, we no longer have to worry about lacking origin energy. It's just a pity that these fruit can only be used for recovery and not cultivation, Houston said with some regret. Jian Chen also possessed some 5-element fruit in his space ring. He had also obtained them from the Xianhuang microcosm, but their medicinal effects were too brutal. They needed to be refined into pills with other materials before they could be ingested, but he would not find anyone who could refine immortal tier heavenly resources in his Wollard, so he did not take them out. Chapter 1557. Still alive, several Saint Emperors walked in from outside. They handed over the space rings the dead Origin Realm experts from the foreign world had been wearing and also reported the casualties of the 4 races. The Tian Yuan continent had emerged with a close victory. They had driven back the world of forsaken saints, but they had also suffered extremely heavy losses. There were several tens of thousands saint rulers, saint kings, and saint emperors who had taken part in the battle, close to 100,000. However, only a few thousand people had survived the battle. 99% had died on the battlefield. As for the puppets revived from saint weapons, they had all passed away. Not a single one was left. Jian Chen saw many familiar names among the list of people who had passed away. There were great elders from protector clans, ancestors from ancient clans, the imperial protectors or ancestral emperors from the 3 great empires, and so on. Some of the protector clans had even lost all their great elders or all their sainthood experts. Very few people survived. Only Changyang Zhu Yunshao and Changyang Zhu Yeyun managed to survive from the Changyang protector clan, but they were heavily injured, basically hanging on to their life with a thread. Changyang Zhu Shao and the great elders from the other 2 branches had all passed away. Jian Chen immediately felt heavy inside when he received the news. Sorrow filled his face as tears began to well up in his eyes. He did not really care about the people from the other 2 branches, but Changyang Zhu Shao was his great-grandfather. Because of the saint's fruit in the past, he had fallen out with the 2 other branches, which were directed by Changyang Qingyun. Changyang Zhu Shao had fought against Changyang Qingyun in the miniature world. By using his saint-tier battle skill on Changyang Qingyun, he was willing to risk the collapse of the miniature world. In the end, he even made the Zhu branch break away from the Protector clan before settling down in Lore City. However, he never brought up the matter of the saint's fruit for himself, which had really touched Jian Chen. Changyang Zhu Shao was a benevolent and powerful man in Jian Chen's heart. He was also the great-grandfather Jian Chen respected the most. Jian Chen felt extremely painful now that he had passed away. Even now, Jian Chen could still clearly remember Changyang Zhu Zhao's benevolent smile as well as when Changyang Zhu Shao fought against Changyang Qingyun without any hesitation to protect him. Great-grandfather, rest easy. I will definitely personally take revenge for you, Jian Chen murmured with a soft voice. However, he was unable to contain the deep sorrow within him. He knew that Changyang Zhu Zhao's benevolent face would only exist in his memories now. He would never be able to see that face again or hear his familiar voice. Changyang Zhu Zhao's soul had been wiped out. Even as a Class 9 Radiant Saint Master, Jian Chen could not revive him. High-class Radiant Saint Masters could revive the dead, but they could not revive every single person who had passed away. There were still 2 requirements that needed to be met: their corpse remained and their soul had not been wiped out. He could only revive them when both requirements were filled. What about my father? How's my father? Shangguan Mu'er seemed to think of something when she saw Jian Chen's face. Her face suddenly changed and she suddenly asked a question. Her voice was filled with panic. Her face was filled with worry. By now, many people had already learned about Shangguan Mu'er's connection to her father, Hao Wu. When the Saint Emperors responsible for counting the dead heard what Shangguan Mu'er had said, they immediately showed respect. Many people had seen her block over 10 Origin Realm experts by herself. Even though she was younger than most Saint Kings, her strength made all the experts from the 4 races yield to her. The Saint Emperors dared not tarry. However, when they were about to say something, Shangguan Mu'er had already charged out. She was frantic. During most of her days of peace, Shangguan Mu'er had always resented Hao Wu, unwilling to accept him as her father. However, when she realized that Hao Wu might pass away like Jian Chen's great-grandfather, she began to understand. As it turned out, she cared for her father. She did not want to see him die. The value of some things could only be truly recognized after they were lost. At this moment, Gue Haidao, Feng Shaotian, and Yang Lai entered the Divine Hall with the support of a few Saint Emperors. They had not died in the battle, but they had sustained extremely bad injuries and had been incapacitated. Even now, they only managed to enter the Divine Hall with the support of several Saint Emperors. Even walking was difficult for them. They probably would not have been able to fly into the Divine Hall if it were not for the Saint Emperors. Everyone was overjoyed with their return. Quite a few of them had believed that the 3 of them had passed away, so they were obviously extremely ecstatic when they found out that they were still alive. After all, they were forces equivalent to the Origin Realm. The Tian Yuan continent was in great need of Origin Realm experts. Jian Chen suppressed his sorrow and personally used his Radiant Saint Force Origin energy to heal the 3 of them. It's fortunate that we have such a powerful Divine Hall. Otherwise, we would have experienced an unthinkable outcome. The 3 of them immediately let out a breath in relief when they learned about the rest of the battle from everyone else. The 3 of them fully recovered in 5 or 6 hours after being healed by the origin energy of Class 9 Radiant Saint Force. After healing, they all consumed a mortal energy fruit to replenish their Saint Force so that they could return to their peak condition as soon as possible. The Sea Goddess, Her Majesty's body has been destroyed. She fled as a soul. I'll immediately go to the Sea Realm to see if I can rebuild her body and return her to peak condition. She'll strengthen our power, said Jian Chen. He left the Supreme Divine Hall after healing Yang Lai, Gue Haidao, and Feng Shaotian. Chapter 1558, Healing Kaiya. Jian Chen hovered in the sky as he observed the Tian Yuan continent after the battle. He saw were many sainthood experts flying around below, hurrying about as they cleaned up the battlefield. Many of them carried corpses away to be buried. They were either filled with sorrow or were numb. The casualties had been far too many. Only 1% of all the people who had participated in the battle managed to survive. Many people had lost their family and friends. There were not many complete corpses. Basically all of them were missing limbs or did not have a corpse at all. Their bodies had collapsed, turned into flesh and blood. The ruins of Mercenary City had become an extremely large, bottomless pit. There were densely packed cracks around the pit and 4 that were particularly thick. They cut through the entire continent, dividing it into 4 pieces. Perhaps sometime soon, the 4 great cracks would turn into 4 extremely great and surging rivers. Jian Chen gently sighed as he stared at the damaged continent. In the blink of an eye, the continent that he could not be more familiar had been reduced to this. It was quite a painful sight. Jian Chen then expanded his soul and enveloped the entire continent in a single moment. Although the battle had occurred among and around the ruins of Mercenary City, there had been many Saint Emperors and Origin Realm experts who had fought. Not only did the terrifying shockwaves split the continent, but regions millions of kilometers away were drastically affected as well. The continent had experienced an unprecedented earthquake, causing many cities and mountain ranges to collapse. However, Jian Chen's face suddenly changed at this moment. He immediately leaped onto the Ziying sword and shot off into the distance as a streak of violet light. The Ziying sword had been damaged and was covered in cracks. The sword spirits were affected by the failure of the swords, but they were still immortal artifacts. Even if they were damaged, they could still be used. They would not truly break as long as they did not have to weather any more particularly intense battles. Their power had lessened. Jian Chen crossed several million kilometers on the Ziying sword at an extreme speed. He arrived at a lone mountain in the end. It was called a lone mountain because it was the only mountain within the radius of 1,000 meters. There was nothing in the radius of 1,000 meters but desolate plains. A woman in white clothes lay on the mountain. Her appearance could not be considered as alluring, but she was still pretty. She lay on the ground with a pale face and with her eyes closed. There was a finger-sized hole between her eyes where blood flowed. This blood made her seem rather vicious and terrifying. The woman was Kaya, who had been kidnapped by an Origin Realm experts from the world of Forsaken Saints. Beside Kaya, the seven-colored heaven-devouring beast had already shrunk to the size of a fist. It frantically buzzed around her as if it was trying to wake her up. However, the seven-colored heaven-devouring beast seemed to sense something at this moment. Its body swelled until it was 3 meters long. It stood before Kaya. Its fist-sized eyes were filled with caution as it gazed into the distance, but when it saw Jian Chen, the caution in its eyes immediately disappeared. It turned back to the size of a fist before buzzing around Jian Chen. It was extremely worried, as if it was asking Jian Chen to help Kaya. Jian Chen kneeled before Kaya. His face immediately became extremely sunken as he looked at the bloody hole between her eyes. Kaya's not dead. It's very easy to cure the wounds on her body. The only problem is that her soul has sustained extremely heavy injuries. Just a strand of it remains and it's close to collapsing altogether. Jian Chen quickly checked Kaya's condition. He became very stern. Kaya's situation was extremely dangerous. She had a foot planted in the jaws of death. Jian Chen then began to use his Radiant Saint Force Origin energy to heal Kaya. Even if Kaya's body was even more injured, she could still be healed in an extremely short amount of time by a Class 9 Radiant Saint Master. The wounds on her body were not particularly deep, so she recovered very quickly. The bloody hole between her eyes also vanished, only leaving behind some residual blood. The seven-colored heaven-devouring beast fell silent as soon as Jian Chen began to heal her. It quietly lay to the side as it looked back and forth between Kaya and Jian Chen. Its eyes were filled with intelligence. It could not assume a human form, but it clearly was just as smart as a human. With a flip of his hand, Jian Chen removed a segment of amethyst spiritual bamboo. He extracted the sap and pressed it between Kaya's eyes. As soon as the sap came in contact with her forehead, it silently seeped in, healing Kaya's soul as a cool presence. The wounds on Kaya's soul could not be healed by a Radiant Saint Master. The amethyst spiritual bamboo was the only heavenly resource Jian Chen had that could deal with wounds to the soul. It had even reached the immortal tier and was a high-quality resource. Jian Chen understood just how effective it was when healing soul wounds. However, Jian Chen wasn't confident that a single droplet of sap would heal Kaya's soul. This was because her soul was not just injured. If it were not for the sliver of her soul remaining, she would be dead. As expected, not only did Kaya fail to awaken after the single drop of sap, Jian Chen could even sense that the remaining sliver of Kaya's soul did not show any signs of strengthening. Jian Chen frowned and mumbled to himself in his mind, why would this happen? Even if a drop of amethyst spiritual bamboo sap is not enough for her to recover, the effects are so strong that Kaya's soul should strengthen a little at the very least, right? After a while of thought, Jian Chen took out a second segment of amethyst spiritual bamboo and used it on Kaya. However, the outcome was the same. The sap seemed to be useless on Kaya. Is Kaya dead? Even the amethyst spiritual bamboo is not enough to save her? Those thoughts crossed Jian Chen's mind. His heart felt rather heavy. Chapter 1559. A shocking sight. Suddenly, a gleam of light flashed through Jian Chen's eyes. He said with a deep voice, "No, even if the amethyst spiritual bamboo sap is useless to Kaya, she still absorbs it. It should leave a mark in her head at the very least, but why can't I find any differences after using the sap? Does the sap vanish by itself after it enters her head?" Jian Chen gritted his teeth after hesitating for a while. He endured his heartache as he pulled out another amethyst spiritual bamboo. He extracted the sap from it and had the sap drop onto Kaya's forehead. The bamboo was extremely valuable, and he had not obtained much of it in the Xianhuang microcosm. He had already used up quite a few of them, and after using another 3 on Kaya, he only had a few left. This time, Jian Chen paid close attention to any changes. Under his observations, he could clearly sense that the sap had no time to seep into Kaya's remaining soul fragment once it entered her sea of consciousness. It suddenly vanished, disappearing to somewhere unknown. Jian Chen was stunned. Why had the droplet of sap suddenly vanished? Where did it go? He could not understand no matter how hard he tried. Even if the sap was useless to Kaya, unable to heal her soul, it would not just silently disappear. He had used the amethyst spiritual bamboo many times, so he understood how it healed the soul. However, he had never seen something as strange as this. Where did this droplet of sap go? Jian Chen thought about this question time and time again, but he was unable to reach a conclusion no matter how much he pondered. He could not figure out why at all. Jian Chen sighed to the sky. He felt rather dispirited. He knew that he had no other method to awaken Kaya. All that he had on him that was effective on soul wounds was the sap from the amethyst spiritual bamboo. When Jian Chen unintentionally glanced over the flat land that spanned 1,000 kilometers, his facial expression immediately froze. His soul had enveloped the entire Tianyuan continent several times in the past. Although he could not claim that he knew every inch of the Tianyuan continent as well as the back of his hand, he was still familiar with its rough structure and landscape. He happened to remember the landscape here. In his memories, there had been an endless chain of mountain ranges. They stretched far into the distance and towered above all, yet a large part of the mountain range had strangely disappeared, having turned into flat plains that reached over 1,000 kilometers away. Only Kaya lay on the single mountain among the plains. What happened here? Jian Chen frowned. He was filled with doubt. Even if an intense battle had happened here and destroyed everything in the radius of 1,000 kilometers, there would have been pieces of rock at the very least. However, from his observations, it did not seem like a battle had occurred here at all. The plains and the surroundings were just far too flat. There were no signs of conflict at all. Jian Chen slowly flew down the mountain with Kaya in his arms. He landed on the ground. When his feet touched the ground, they sank. The flat surface was covered by a thick layer of dust. Has all this dust come from the mountains in the surroundings? Jian Chen immediately became extremely shocked when he reached such a conclusion. His heart churned. He could easily destroy the mountain range with his powers, but he could not avoid leaving behind a bunch of broken rocks and signs of a fight. He definitely would not have been able to make disintegrate all the mountains. Just what has happened here? Who made all the mountains disintegrate? Jian Chen became extremely stern. He understood just how powerful someone needed to be to destroy the region. He could only think of 2 people who possessed that power. First was Protector Shui from the Ice Goddess Hall, and second was the greatest god king of the god race from the Saints' world, Adriana. This was because both of them were peak godhood experts. However, Adriana had been heavily injured by Protector Shui. She was extremely weak and in a slumber. She probably no longer possessed this ability. On the other hand, according to Jian Chen's understanding of Protector Shui, she would never interfere with anything that was happening on the Tianyuan continent. She would not even glance at the continent if it was destroyed, so there was no reason for her to interfere. Is there a third expert that doesn't belong to this world apart from the two great god kings? Otherwise, how can this happen? Jianshan wondered, but he did not feel like this line of thought was correct. There was nothing pointing to a third expert, like Protector Shui or Adriana, existing. This was because both the elven god tree and the ice goddess hall had existed for countless years. They were known among the people, even though they were shrouded by a veil of mystery. However, there were no longer any organizations or supreme experts shrouded by mystery among the four races anymore. Jianshan wandered through the region and carefully examined every minute trace. He attempted to find something that would tell him something, but he found nothing in the end. In the end, Jianshan could only leave in doubt. However, he memorized the strange landscape. Jianshan returned to the Supreme Divine Hall with the unconscious Kaya, temporarily placing her in a quiet room. He knew that Kaya was not truly dead, so he had not given up on the thought of reviving her. The seven-colored heaven-devouring beast continued to remain by Kaya's side. Its intelligent eyes were filled with caution and alarm, clearly guarding Kaya. After delivering Kaya, Jianshan left for the Sea Realm. He did not take part in the various matters that needed to be completed after the war and instead left them to someone else to deal with. The Sea Realm had become much quieter after the war against the foreign world. However, the peaceful atmosphere was suffocating and filled with deep sorrow. The Sea Realm had lost many of its sainthood experts this time. This included many ancestors of a few large clans or organizations. Many of these ancestors possessed great statuses, so their deaths had shocked the various clans. In various locations across the Sea Realm, there were many organizations and clans who had hung up a white banner to send off their seniors. The Serpent God Hall and Heaven's Spirit Hall became much quieter. Both hall masters had passed away during the battle, only leaving behind a few ordinary elders and hall elders. However, they too were heavily injured, so the organizations had sustained great losses. Chapter 1560, Visiting Fairy Haoyu. After the battle, the Serpent God Hall and Heaven's Spirit Hall began to decline. Only the Sea Goddess Hall maintained its prestige. Their hall master and newly gained emperor, Yedrium, were both alive. They possessed two experts at the level of emperor, which was unique in the Sea Realm. At the same time, the Sea Goddess was still alive. It was said that the Sea Goddess Hall had been founded during the ancient times by the Sea Goddess herself, so the Sea Goddess Hall's influence immediately became as overwhelming as the midday sun. Jianshan flew through the Sea Realm. He had turned into a violet streak of light and shot across the sky like a comet, disappearing in the blink of an eye. Jianshan had already expanded his soul when he had ventured to the Sea Realm earlier to observe the situation of the sea race. He found that the Turtle Clan was also shrouded by a thick layer of sorrow. In the battle against the foreign world, their Saint King elders had also taken part in the battle, but only a single person survived in the end. The rest of them, including Tai Do, had all passed away. Jianshan rode past the Turtle Clan from 10,000 kilometers away on the Ziying sword, making way to the Sea Goddess Hall. He did not go to the Turtle Clan. There was nothing in the Turtle Clan that he cared about. The only person he had cared about was the Grand Elder, who had laid down his life to save him, and Jianshan had already taken up the role as the ruler of the clan just to complete his final wish. Jianshan had successfully made the Turtle Clan powerful. They had become a peak-level organization in the Sea Realm. He had also completed the Grand Elder's final wish, so after that, he cut his ties with the Turtle Clan. The Sea Goddess Hall was a majestic divine hall. It was deep blue and let out a radiant glow. It hovered in the air like a primordial beast, unintentionally giving off a certain pressure that permeated the surroundings. Even Saint Kings would be deterred by it. The experts in the Sea Goddess Hall had fallen as well. The entire structure seemed to have emptied. They had lost many Saint Kings and many Saint Ruler emissaries. When Jianshan arrived before the Divine Hall, he was immediately recognized by an emissary, who courteously bowed to him. The emissary then moved as quickly as he could to report to the hall master. Very soon, both Yadrium and Atlantis emerged. This time, they did not conceal their appearances at all, revealing their alluring beauty. At a closer glance, it was not difficult to tell that they looked somewhat similar. Jian Shen was invited into the Divine Hall after some greetings were exchanged. Jian Shen, we sisters were injured too heavily and were completely incapacitated, so we could only leave first. We did not last until our final moments, so we must apologize. As soon as the three of them sat down, Yadrium spoke apologetically. How can you say that, Hall Master? I'm happy that you could successfully escape under such circumstances. It's just a pity that my great-grandfather Changyang Zhu Shao failed to make it out alive and passed away on the battlefield. Jian Chen's voice carried some grief. If Changyang Zhu Shao had been able to make it out alive, no matter how heavily injured, Jian Chen would have been able to heal him. I never thought that the Divine Hall in Mercenary City would be so powerful that it could stop returnance experts from the world of Forsaken Saints. Jian Chen, can I ask how long the Divine Hall will last? The sea goddess illusory figure appeared in the hall as she asked Jian Chen a question. Jian Chen sucked in a deep breath and slowly released his sorrow that formed from losing family. He said, the Divine Hall from Mercenary City is powerful, but maintaining it is not easy. It requires the support from all the Origin Realm experts and many Saint Emperors to display the might that stopped the foreign world. I've come this time to assist the Hall Master and Elder Yadrium in recovering as well as to rebuild your Majesty's body. The Supreme Divine Hall from Mercenary City requires your Majesty. I can rebuild my body, but Origin energy is just far too difficult to replenish. I might not be of much help. After all, the energy of the world in the sea realm became much thinner after my first resurrection. It will not recover even after a very long time. I can't use the spiritual springs in the sea realm again, or the energy of the world would completely vanish, making it impossible for my people to cultivate, sighed the sea goddess. Jian Chen smiled confidently. Don't worry, Your Majesty. I just happen to have heavenly resources that can recover Origin energy. Once you have revived, all you need to do is consume this fruit and you'll be able to recover your peak strength in an extremely short amount of time. As he said that, a mortal energy fruit appeared in his hand. It gave off an intoxicating fragrance. The sea goddess' eyes immediately lit up. She stared at the mortal energy fruit and asked in disbelief, is that true? Just this single piece of fruit can return me to my peak condition? I'm completely certain, Jian Chen swore. Jian Chen immediately began to move. He assisted the sea goddess, reviving her a second time. He had collected quite a few of the materials she required to rebuild her body from the Zhuaxuang microcosm, so he still had a lot left. Even 100 resurrections would not be enough to consume them all, so he did not need to worry about any required materials. In order to ensure no accidents happened, Jian Chen personally guarded the sea goddess during her second resurrection. After recovering, Yadrium and Atlantis took part as well. Since they had the experience from the first revival, the entire process happened much faster. It was successfully completed in just 7 days. After consuming a mortal energy fruit, the sea goddess had replenished all her power by the next day. The sea goddess immediately went to the Supreme Divine Hall on the Tian Yuan continent after she had been revived. Jian Chen returned to Flame City after completing his tasks in the sea realm. He stood outside the Bright Moon Divine Hall, intending to visit Fairy Hao Yu. However, the entrance of the Divine Hall remained tightly shut, as if she wanted to deny Jian Chen entry. Jian Chen, do you want me to partake in the battle against the world of Forsaken Saints? Fairy Hao Yu's obscure voice appeared in Jian Chen's ears. She had already sensed Jian Chen's arrival, but she did not let him into the Divine Hall. Jian Chen knew that Fairy Hao Yu possessed a great background. He clasped his hands and said, Fairy Hao Yu, I have materials that can rebuild your body. I do indeed hope that you can assist us in fending off the world of Forsaken Saints once you recover your strength. After all, you also exist on the Tian Yuan continent. Probably even you are unable to keep yourself safe if the front lines fall. Jian Chen, you should go. I won't help you fend off the world of Forsaken Saints. Even ignoring the fact that I don't want to use your low-quality resurrection materials, I would not want to offend the world of forsaken saints even if I still had a body. Fairy Hao declined without any hesitation. Why's that? Jian Chen asked. He did not understand her reasoning. Jian Chen, if I've examined the people from the world of forsaken saints correctly, they should be spirit sages from the saints' world. The spirit sages are a great race in the saints' world. The spirit sages may not necessarily cause you trouble even though the people of this world are battling them, but I come from the Moon God Hall of the saints' world. If I interfere, the Moon God Hall will definitely be dragged into the conflict, Fairy Hao said. Chapter 1561, Where Hope Lies. Jian Chen frowned. He would never have thought that the people from the world of forsaken saints would possess such a great background, originating from the saints' world. Fairy Hao, are the spirit sages in the saints' world very powerful? Since the world of forsaken saints has origins in the saints' world, why are they invading our Tianyuan continent? With my understanding, the people from the world of forsaken saints have been there for an extremely long time. If they are from the saints' world, then their origin realm experts would have ventured to the other world already. Why do they remain there? Jian Chen asked. After a while of silence, Fairy Hao replied, the spirit sages are a great race in the saints' world and possess great strength, but due to some reasons, many large sects and clans in the saints' world attacked them, so they suffered heavy losses. Both of their grand prime ancestors fell, but the spirit sages are still a force to be reckoned with. They're definitely not people our Moon God Hall can offend. At the same time, the people from the world of forsaken saints are only extremely similar to the spirit sages. I'm not certain they're actually part of the spirit sages from the saints' world. It's just that the spirit sages are far too powerful. As long as there's the slight chance that they are, I'm not willing to take part in the battle. Fairy Hao spoke sternly. She really feared the spirit sages. The Moon God Hall could not afford to provoke such a powerful foe. Moreover, even if her Moon God Hall did not fear the spirit sages, there was no reason for her to turn on them. She was not from the Tianyuan continent. Even though she had remained there for quite some time, she held no feelings for the continent. There was no difference if humans occupied the Tianyuan continent or the spirit sages did. Fairy Hao, if the people from the world of forsaken saints really are a part of the spirit sages, will it become a hidden problem due to my enmity with them? Jian Chen asked. Your enmity with the world of forsaken saints is like a child making some noise before the spirit sages. After all, they're a great race, so why would they go as far as to fuss over someone who hasn't even reached godhood over some small matters in a lower world? That is unless a descendant of some important figure dies in your hands, but that basically never happens, and even if it did, the spirit sages can't do anything to you because the war god of the God clan is among you. The God clan is a peak clan in the saints' world. When they were founded by the war god, they were known as the greatest organization in the saints' world. Even if the great war god of the past has fallen, forcing the God clan to lose their title as the greatest, they're still not in existence that any large sect or clan can afford to offend. Jian Chen knew that persuading Fairy Hao to partake in the battle against the foreign world was no longer possible, so he ended his conversation with her and left. Jian Chen, the seal in this world will vanish soon. At that time, the seal leading to the saints' world will disappear as well. In my current state, it's extremely difficult for me to go to the saints' world. I'll need your help then. You'll need to take my divine hall to the saints' world. As long as there is origin energy, I can use a secret technique to rebuild my body in the shortest amount of time possible. Fairy Hao's voice rang out once more. Jian Chen paused. He knew that his relationship with Fairy Hao was not full of friendship. They were just partners in a deal at most. Fairy Hao had taken Yu as her disciple because she saw potential in Jian Chen. To return the favor, he would have to take Fairy Hao to the saints' world. Jian Chen was obviously willing to agree to such a deal. It was just that the threat of the foreign world still lingered. Even if the seal to the saints' world vanished, he could not leave at ease because he had too many friends and family here. They had the power to protect themselves on the Tianyuan continent, but they would not be able to preserve their lives once they ventured to the saint's world. As a result, it was impossible for him to take all his friends and family to the saint's world. They would remain on the Tianyuan continent, so before he left, he needed to create a safe and lovely environment for them to live in. Fairy Hao Yu, we have known each other for many years, so you should understand me a little. Do you think I can easily leave without completely dealing with the matter of the foreign world? Jian Chen inquired. You can take all your friends and family with you to the saint's world. Once we're there, I'll recover very quickly. At that time, I'll obviously be able to protect your friends and family. And to pay you back, I can open the gate to the God's Necropolis so that you can enter the God's Necropolis microcosm. If you cultivate in there, you'll quickly reach godhood with your talent, added Fairy Hao Yu. Jian Chen gently shook his head. He did not agree to Fairy Hao Yu's suggestion. Jian Chen had considered taking all his friends and family with him, but he did not believe they would be safe. After all, the experts in the saint's world were as common as clouds and held all the power. Even if he reached godhood, he would find it difficult to protect the people around him. Moreover, he was born on the Tianyuan continent, was a member of the humans, and was revered as their greatest expert. He carried the hopes of all of the humans on his shoulder, so how could he just leave by himself and abandon them, leaving them to face danger all by themselves? At the same time, Jian Chen did not believe that he did not have the power to deal with the foreign world. His strength could skyrocket in a short amount of time by absorbing the Yinyang Saint Rock. The sword spirits had told him that if he absorbed all of the rock's power, he could even reach the 9th layer of his chaotic body. According to the strength he gained each time his chaotic body progressed to a new layer, just his personal strength would reach godhood if he reached the 9th layer, even before factoring in his other powers. The only problem that troubled Jian Chen was that he could not absorb the powers of the Yinyang Saint Rock by himself. He required Shengguan Mu'er support, or he would just be seeking death. After leaving the Bright Moon Divine Hall, Jian Chen remained in the city lord's estate, keeping Yu Yu and Bai Lian company. Jian Chen had not allowed them to take part in the battle. They were very important to him, so he would remain pain for the rest of his life if they died in battle. In reality, even if they took part in battle, they would not be any great help. They severely lacked battle experience and were not as experienced as the saint rulers and saint kings who had lived for thousands of years. Brother, the foreign world is so powerful and the divine hall from Mercenary City cannot always remain there. If the spirit king from the foreign world smashes through the divine hall, what'll happen? Bai Lian asked, full of worry. Since her status was special as Jian Chen's sister, she knew many secrets. Don't worry. The Supreme Divine Hall from Mercenary City can block the tunnel for a few decades at the very least. At that time, we might not need to fear the foreign world anymore, Jian Chen smiled. There was no worry on his face. However, he was mulling over the fact that he probably should talk to Shengguan Mu'er. Sister Bai Lian, you have to be confident in your brother. Your brothers experienced countless storms of blood and been through an innumerable amount of problems. In the end, weren't they all resolved by him? I believe the threat from the foreign world won't be able to trouble Jian Chen for long. Yu Yu sat beside Jian Chen and hung onto his arm. Her face was filled with happiness. Chapter 1562. The Spirit King attacks. Jian Chen placed his hand around Yu Yu's thin waist. Yu Yu did not resist at all. She leaned her head on Jian Chen's shoulder with a smile full of joy. She wore a small pouch of fragrance on her, so Jian Chen immediately smelt a faint fragrance. The pouch contained extremely valuable herbs and flowers and could calm people down. Jian Chen immediately felt relaxed, calmer and less restless. Jian Chen sucked in a deep breath and said, You are right. Liener, don't worry about the world of forsaken saints. The Spirit King may be very powerful, but there's still a shred of hope for us. This shred of hope can only become larger after a few years or even decades. The Supreme Divine Hall from Mercenary City will be able to earn us some of that valuable time. As soon as Jian Chen finished speaking, the ground immediately began to shake, as if an earthquake was happening. Not only was the entire city lord's estate violently shaking, but so was the entire city. An extremely powerful earthquake was happening across the Tianyuan continent. It affected an extremely large range, having originated from the ruins of Mercenary City over 1,000,000 kilometers away. The epicenter of the earthquake was there, spreading out across the entire shattered continent. Jian Chen's face froze. He said, "It's the world of Forsaken Saints attacking the Supreme Divine Hall above the tunnel. I'll head over immediately." Jian Chen could no longer afford to accompany Yu Yu and Bai Lian. He immediately stood up and left the city. "Brother, you have to be careful. Jian Chen, no matter what happens, you have to come back safely." The two women immediately followed Jian Chen out of the building. Their eyes were filled with worry and a reluctance to part with him. Even though the tunnel leading to the world of Forsaken Saints had been blocked by the Supreme Divine Hall and made it impossible for the people from the other world to cross over, they would worry every time Jian Chen left. They worried that accidents would happen. Jian Chen left through the space gate that had been set up in Flame City to go to the ruins of Mercenary City. It was much faster than flying over 1,000,000 kilometers for him. When Jian Chen arrived, a deafening rumble constantly reverberated around. The Supreme Divine Hall, which was blocking the tunnel, was gently shaking while extremely violent streams of energy leaked out from below it. Within the streams of energy were strands of extremely sharp sword qi, causing space to shatter and collapse. Everything was turned to nothingness due to its destructive powers. The Supreme Divine Hall had stood like a mountain earlier. It had not moved even after taking on a full-powered attack from Ouyang Yangwen. Yang Lai, Feng Xiaotian, Gui Haidao, and the Sea Goddess had all been absent at that time, while all the Origin Realm experts who had been supporting the Divine Hall were heavily injured. However, Ouyang Yangwen was still unable to force the Supreme Divine Hall to move. Yet now, all the Origin Realm experts of the Tianyuan continent had recovered their strength, and Yang Lai, Gui Haidao, Feng Xiaotian, and the Sea Goddess were present. Yet, under these circumstances, the Divine Hall still shook. This all pointed to the fact that the Divine Hall was being attacked by an extremely terrifying expert. The Spirit King. Jian Chen immediately thought of who was attacking the Divine Hall. Aside from the Spirit King, who had also comprehended the way of the sword and surpassed Jian Chen's own comprehension, there was no one else. The current Spirit King was like a god in the world of Forsaken Saints. He had created a legend. Even Ouyang Yangwen and Xiongzhong, who were almost at reciprocity, deeply feared him. They would obediently follow any order from the Spirit King and would never question them. At the same time, the Spirit King was like a huge mountain that weighed on Jian Chen's heart, almost suffocating him. This was because he had heard the rumors regarding the Spirit King from the other people of the foreign world. Not only had the Spirit King reached mid-reciprocity, but his battle prowess was also at the level of godhood experts. He was a legendary figure. His talent was so great that it was almost unprecedented. He was the greatest genius in all of the foreign world's history, as well as the most powerful Spirit King. In just a few centuries, he had gone from a nameless figure to the supreme sovereign of the foreign world. With a single movement, Jian Chen entered the Divine Hall. The atmosphere inside was extremely stern. All the Origin Realm experts were present and channeling their origin energy into the Jade White Seat. They worked together with many Saint Rulers, Saint Kings, and Saint Emperors to push the Divine Hall to its limits so that they could guard the entrance and block the path of the foreigners. Jian Chen made his way over to the Jade White Seat and gently placed his hand on it. His chaotic force surged into the seat without any restraints at all. Since Jian Chen's chaotic force was special, the shaking Divine Hall gradually calmed down. However, the deafening booms continued to ring from the blocked tunnel. As the Divine Hall gradually stabilized, the great expert from the foreign world also seemed to understand that he was unable to smash through the Divine Hall. He stopped attacking and the great booms suddenly stopped. Everyone fell silent within the Supreme Divine Hall. After seeing how they were not going to be attacked again, they all let out a breath of relief and pulled back their hands. However, every single one of them was extremely stern. That should have been the Spirit King of the foreign world. He really is strong. Just his attacks alone required all of us to work together. It's fortunate that he didn't take part in the battle earlier, or we would not have been his opponent even if we worked together. We would not have been able to injure him, Feng Xiaotian said grimly as he frowned. These attacks have already surpassed reciprocity. Only experts at godhood can stop the Spirit King. If we want to use the Divine Hall to stop attacks from experts at godhood, the origin energy we need will increase by several fold. We do have the mortal energy fruit, but they will only last us a few decades at most. If the Spirit King continuously attacks the Divine Hall, we'll last an even shorter amount of time. We might finish off all the fruit in just a few years, Yang Lai said in a solemn voice. In such a short time frame, it's impossible for any of us to break through to godhood. Continuing to remain defensive won't work, said Changyang Mingyue. Her face was filled with worry. After a moment of hesitation, she gritted her teeth and said, I'll go back and find Protector Shui to see if she has any methods of making me break through to godhood in the shortest time possible. With that, Changyang Mingyue left the Divine Hall and traveled to the Ice Goddess Hall with lightning-like speed. Jian Chen stared at Changyang Mingyue's back as she grew further away. He was probably the only person who knew Protector Shui's true strength. As a supreme god king who even managed to kill the greatest god king of the god race, she definitely would have valuable heavenly resources on her. He was extremely willing to have Changyang Mingyue break through to godhood. Protector Shui may not interfere with the matters of this world, but my sister is clearly valuable to Protector Shui. If Protector Shui assists my sister and increases her strength, that shouldn't count as interfering, Jian Chen thought. He then looked at Shangguan Mu'er. After a while of hesitation, he walked over and said, Mu'er, there's something I want to discuss with you. Shangguan Mu'er's face was neutral. She only slowly hesitated before nodding in the end. She left the Divine Hall with Jian Chen. 1,000 kilometers away, Jian Chen and Shangguan Mu'er stood above the clouds, like a match made in heaven. Mu'er, everyone understands the strength of the foreign world and the Spirit King extremely well. Even if we don't include the Spirit King in the picture, just Ouyang Yangwen is hard enough to be dealt with. In a few decades, when we use up all of the mortal energy fruits, what will we use to stop the next attack? My sister may have gone to find Protector Shui, but I don't think her chances of success will be great. As a result, the only way for us to achieve victory lies with us. Jian Chen looked at Shangguan Mu'er as he spoke in a stern voice. Chapter 1563, Protector Shui injured. Shangguan Mu'er wore a purple dress. Her indescribably beautiful face seemed like it was not something that could appear among the realm of mortals. She looked like a goddess from heaven. Her eyes were cold, but they were spirited as well, shining with an enchanting light. Just her gaze could mesmerize people. The heavenly enchantress fell silent after listening to Jian Chen and did not reply for quite some time. Mixed feelings filled her eyes. She felt like she was torn between some decisions. She obviously knew what Jian Chen's intentions were. In the current world, no one could become powerful enough to fend off the Spirit King within a few dozen years by cultivating a side form Changyang Mingyue. Let alone reaching godhood, even just the slightest improvement would be extremely difficult because there was no origin energy in this world. They would no longer grow as rapidly after reaching the origin realm. Currently, the only method for them to rapidly strengthen themselves was the Yinyang Saint Rock. Shangguan Mu'er was very reluctant to bring up the rock. She had never forgotten what had happened in the past. The rock had been a fortuitous encounter for her, but it had also hurt her. Will you be able to deal with the Spirit King if you absorb the Yinyang Saint Rock? Shangguan Mu'er finally replied after thinking for a while. Her voice was rather forced. She still felt conflicted about the matter of the Yinyang Saint Rock at the bottom of her heart, but after so many years, even Xiao Bao had become an adult. She had gradually let go of these matters and come to terms with them. Not to mention the fact that the Tian Yuan continent currently faced a disastrous future. In just a few decades, all the lives in this world might end up threatened or wiped out. She needed to make this decision for Xiao Bao. Jianchen sucked in a deep breath and slowly replied, "The yin-yang saint rock is condensed from the yin and yang qi of the world. They are extremely powerful energies, far greater than we can imagine. They're far more terrifying than any energy we've ever seen before. If we blow up the yin-yang saint rock, the entire universe would probably be destroyed. It is exactly because of how powerful the yin-yang saint rock is that I can only absorb it after I have reached the 5th layer of the chaotic body, and I still require the balancing of yin and yang so that the supreme yin force and supreme yang force within the yin and yang qi become gentle. Otherwise, it would cost me my life. At our current strength, we can reach reciprocity at the minimum if we absorb the entire rock, or we could break through the origin realm and reach godhood. However, with my battle prowess, there's no need for me to reach godhood. I just need to reach reciprocity. Even if it's early reciprocity, we would not need to fear the Spirit King." Jianchen's face was filled with confidence. He knew that the Spirit King was also an expert who could kill people at greater levels of cultivation, but he was confident that he would be no weaker than the Spirit King. Not only did he cultivate chaotic force, but he was also a Class 9 Radiant Saint Master. Once the battle began, the rate at which he consumed chaotic force would be several dozen times or even 100 times slower than his enemy's energy consumption. However, the drawback was that it took him 100 times longer to recover chaotic force. He also possessed martial soul force, an ability that could attack the souls of his opponents. Although he did not know of a way to use martial soul force to its fullest extent, his soul would still rapidly strengthen as his power increased, so the power of martial soul force would increase as well. Even though he would not be able to injure opponents at the same level, he was still able to distract them. Hesitation filled Shangguan-Muer's face. She was conflicted inside. She knew that this was probably the only way she could protect Xiao Bao, but she was just unable to voice her agreement and go to the yin-yang saint rock with Jianchen to practice the dual cultivation together. "Give me 3 days to think about it. I will get back to you in 3 days." Shangguan-Muer did not immediately agree after hesitating for a while. Although she had dropped the matter in the past and had gradually accepted it, her feelings for Jianchen were not anywhere near Yu Yu's or Huang Luan's level. Jianchen looked at Shangguan-Muer with mixed feelings. He said, "So far, that's the only idea I can think of that we can use to fend off the foreign world. I will wait for your reply in 3 days." With a flash of violet light, the Ziying sword appeared beneath Jianchen's feet. After he had spoke, he left, disappearing in the horizon as a streak of violet light. Shangguan-Muer slowly sat down. She sat above the sea of clouds. Great gusts of wind buffeted her hair, causing it to wave in the wind. Her face was hesitant. There was a huge world of ice to the far north of the Tianyuan continent. It was separated from the continent and the sea realm by a thick layer of cold air. The battle on the Tianyuan continent had been extremely intense. The terrifying shockwaves of battle had destroyed the entire continent, while the Beast God continent, the Wasteland continent, and the sea realm were also heavily affected. Even though the icy tundra was not far from the Tianyuan continent, it had not suffered any damage at all. It looked no different than before. Shrouded by a wall of thick and in the depths of the icy tundra within the white mist was a majestic divine hall. The entire divine hall seemed to have been carved from crystal, refracting sunlight into rainbows. In a secret room within the divine hall, the armored protector Shui sat in the air. An extremely powerful presence radiated from her body as terrifying pulses of energy permeated the entire room. The energy was so powerful that the entire world would be destroyed if a tiny amount of it leaked out. Protector Shui seemed like a god of war, radiating with an absolute pressure. She seemed indomitable. Before her, even the powerful Spirit King seemed as insignificant as an ant, let alone Jianchen. They would not even be able to endure her presence. Protector Shui's hands constantly danced from one seal to another as she tried to decipher who the mysterious expert, who had almost caused the formation to collapse, was. She needed to determine who they were and work out whether they were a friend or foe, because this was directly tied to the safety of the snow goddess. Suddenly, Protector Shui's body violently trembled as she suddenly vomited a mouthful of blood. She did not stop after one mouthful. She continued to vomit over a dozen times before stopping. She fell out of the air in a horrible condition. She lay on the floor and was extremely weak, having been heavily injured. Who is this person? They're so powerful. I didn't even try to see who they were directly. I just tried to use some traces to work out whether they're a friend or foe, yet not only have I failed, but I've also suffered such a great backlash, Protector Shui involuntarily cried out. Chapter 1564. Worlds apart. Protector Shui was ranked on the God King's throne and had easily killed the strongest God King from the great God race, yet she had completely lost her usual calm. Her icy cold eyes were filled with shock. Under her helmet, her face was filled with shock and disbelief. With my current strength, I could probably find the identities of infinite primes. I may not be able to learn the identities of chaotic primes, but I'd still be able to catch some traces and draw a conclusion from them. I tried to find out who that mysterious expert was and only wanted to approach their identity slowly through a few small traces, but in the end, I failed and I suffered such a powerful backlash. The mysterious expert's strength is far greater than what I imagined. It must be a grand prime, Protector Shui said with a trembling voice. She slowly stood up and waved her hand, opening the door of ice. She walked out with a heavy heart. She thought, this place has been discovered. We cannot stay here any longer. We must leave immediately, or if that mysterious Grand Prime is an enemy, Her Majesty will be in danger. I don't mind dying, but Her Majesty cannot die. Protector Shui recovered her composure. Her eyes glowed with a sharp light. There was a sliver of uncontainable seriousness in her eyes. If the great ice goddess was present, it would be no big deal if a hostile Grand Prime discovered them. The ice goddess would obviously interfere. However, the ice goddess was still heavily injured and had entered a slumber in the ice goddess hall. She was unable to help the snow goddess, and at the same time, there had been a rebellion in the ice goddess hall as well, so even the ice goddess herself was in danger. Protector Shui, at this moment, Changyang Mingyue's voice appeared in the hall. She was looking for Protector Shui and had charged in. Protector Shui was supporting herself with the ice walls, a glow of weakness had filled her eyes. The specks of blood on her snow-white armor were extremely eye-catching and a surprising sight. Changyang Mingyue saw the blood on Protector Shui from very far away. She was immediately surprised and flew over as a blur. She said, "Protector Shui, what's happened to you?" Changyang Mingyue was completely shocked inside. She did not know Protector Shui's precise strength, but she knew that Protector Shui was very powerful. Even at returnance, Protector Shui gave her an unfathomable feeling. Yet, right now, Protector Shui had actually been injured. The thought that there was someone powerful enough to injure Protector Shui in this world was just unimaginable. Protector Shui shook her head and said, "Your Majesty, I am fine. I only suffered from a backlash." Changyang Mingyue let out a breath of relief. Fortunately, Protector Shui had not been injured by someone, or their strength would just be too terrifying. "Protector Shui, do you have any method that can allow me to reach godhood in a short amount of time? The Spirit King from the world of Forsaken Saints is just too powerful. Only godhood experts can stand their ground against him." Changyang Mingyue directly stated her intentions. After spending such a long period of time with Protector Shui, she basically understood Protector Shui's quirks. Everything that Protector Shui did would be for her. Aside from a few things that were morally wrong, Protector Shui basically listened and abided by her words. "Your Majesty, a Grand Prime from the world of Forsaken Saints has discovered our world. I failed to find out whether they're a friend or foe. For your safety, we must immediately leave together. Once you reach the Saints' world, you will be able to break through to godhood in the shortest amount of time possible," Protector Shui weakly said. "What? You're going to take me and leave immediately?" Changyang Mingyue was stunned. She suddenly sensed an ill omen. "Yes, Your Majesty. For your safety, we have to leave immediately. We need to leave right now. Every moment we stay here will amount to more danger, Protector Shui replied. No, I won't leave. This is my home. Protector Shui, without my permission, you can't take me away from my home, Changyang Mingyue loudly cried out. As soon as she finished speaking, she turned around and ran. She understood Protector Shui extremely well. On ordinary days, Protector Shui would show her great respect and listen to her regarding all matters, acting like an attendant. However, once she was in danger, Protector Shui would never listen to her. Bang! With a heavy sound, the doors of the Divine Hall slammed shut before Changyang Mingyue could make it out. Protector Shui moved very fast. The moment the doors closed, Changyang Mingyue felt like the hall was ascending. The Ice Goddess Hall had left the icy tundra it had occupied for over 3 million years and rose into the sky at an unbelievable speed. Protector Shui, let me out. Let me out. My parents are still here. My younger brother is still here. I forbid you from taking me away, or I will never forgive you in the future, Changyang Mingyue frantically screamed as she constantly struck the door. Each attack from her possessed great power, causing the door to ring with heavy thuds. However, the Ice Goddess Hall was extremely tough. It could easily endure the presence of a god king's, so Changyang Mingyue was not even able to leave a mark on its surface, let alone get through the doors. Protector Shui, Changyang Mingyue shrieked. Her beautiful eyes were filled with resentment. She then turned around and lunged at Protector Shui, biting and clawing, attacking with everything she could. Panic filled her face. If she were to be taken to the Saint's world by Protector Shui, she would probably never see her parents again, perhaps even her eldest, youngest brother, and all of relative might end up dead due to the world of forsaken saints. Changyang Mingyue furiously roared as she kicked and scratched Protector Shui. She attacked Protector Shui mercilessly with her returnance powers, but they failed to injure Protector Shui at all despite being enough to devastate the world. Protector Shui did not even shake. Protector Shui's armor easily blocked Changyang Mingyue's full-powered attacks. If it was any other returnance expert, Protector Shui would have reduced them to nothing long ago. However, not only did Protector Shui avoid attacking Changyang Mingyue, but she even endured them without making a single sound. Protector Shui was extremely firm with her decision to leave. She did this out of consideration for Changyang Mingyue's safety. As long as she could safely flee with Changyang Mingyue, she would not mind being resented. She firmly believed that Changyang Mingyue would forgive her once she recovered her memories as the snow goddess, so no matter how poorly Changyang Mingyue reacted, Protector Shui did not waver at all. The Ice Goddess Hall reached outer space in an extremely short amount of time. At the same time, there was a deafening boom. The vast formation cast in outer space shattered at that moment as well. It erupted with extremely terrifying shockwaves of energy, which wreaked havoc in the surroundings, causing space to shatter and sunlight to vanish. The entire world darkened. The formation had been cast down by Protector Shui with the secret help from the great ice goddess from the distant saint's world. Not only could it hide the world from the laws of the universe, making it impossible for anyone in a higher realm to find out where the snow goddess was, but it also prevent the people on the planet of the Tianyuan continent from reaching the origin realm. It also sealed up the tunnel to the saint's world, preventing people of this world from leaking information about the Ice Goddess Hall after they went to the saint's world. At this moment, the formation shattered by itself with the Ice Goddess Hall's departure. Not only did the people of this world regain the ability of breaking through to the origin realm now that the formation was gone, but the tunnel to the saint's world had reopened as well. The disturbance from the destruction of the formation was incredible. The origin realm experts on the Tianyuan continent immediately discovered the change, while even saint emperors and saint kings could sense the eruption of indescribably powerful energy in the depths of space. As the formation caused space to shatter, the Tianyuan continent plunged into darkness. Countless people on the continent were alarmed, causing a great commotion. All the experts in the Supreme Divine Hall sensed what happened first. They all raised their heads as shock filled their faces. In the middle of the region of shattered space, there was a divine hall that seemed even smaller than a finger. It was shining with dazzling light as it flew toward the depths of the universe. "It's the Ice Goddess Hall," Jian Chen cried out. His facial expression suddenly changed. He immediately expanded his soul toward the Arctic. When his soul enveloped the Arctic tundra, he found that the icy mist in the depths had vanished as well as the Ice Goddess Hall. At the same time, a huge black hole suddenly appeared deep in outer space. The Ice Goddess Hall seemed as insignificant as an ant before the dark hole, but the divine hall sped up when it appeared. The divine hall disappeared into the hole as a stream of light. Jian Chen's face became extremely sunken. The collapse of the formation in outer space and the Ice Goddess Hall's disappearance into the dark hole indicated that the Ice Goddess Hall had left. The dark hole was likely the tunnel leading to the higher world. Jian Chen obviously would not have cared if the Ice Goddess Hall had disappeared. However, his sister, Changyang Mingyue, was in the divine all as well. Its departure also meant that his sister had been taken away. Sister. Jian Chen seemed to have become petrified. He stared blankly at the huge black hole that was slowly vanishing. He was filled with sorrow and reluctance. He had never thought that this would be the last time he would get to see Changyang Mingyue. He had no idea how long it would be before the two of them could see each other again. They might not even end up seeing each other in the future. Jian Chen was very dejected. Ming Dong had been taken away and now had Changyang Mingyue. They had all gone to the saint's world. He had no idea whether there would be a chance to see them again. However, he could not leave right now. He needed to remain and stop the world of forsaken saints so that the people of this world would remain safe from their tyranny. Chapter 1565, Revenge. Jian Chen was dejected. On the other hand, Yang Lai, Gui Haidao, and Feng Xiaotian were ecstatic. Now that the seal was gone, there was nothing stopping them from breaking through to the origin realm. Although the origin energy in the world had not been replenished yet, that was not a problem for the three of them. When they had entered an endless cycle of rebirth in the past, they had stored origin energy in their saint artifacts. Aside from them, no one could use the origin energy within the saint artifacts, including saint emperors from the 10 protector clans. If they used the origin energy they had stored up, they could quickly reach the origin realm. Aside from them, the many saint emperors from the 4 races were extremely excited as well. Now that the seal was gone, they all saw the path to the origin realm. Even though there was no origin energy in the world, they believed that reaching the origin realm through the energy of the world was not impossible. At the very least, they found a glimmer of hope to a higher realm and didn't have to remain saint emperors for the rest of their lives and end up passing away from old age. There was a vast expanse of land in the forbidden grounds of the city lord's estate in Flame City. It was always dead silent. The prosperity and noise of the city were unable to overcome the silence. Even the guards that patrolled the estate would avoid the forbidden grounds. As a result, it seemed to have become a whole different realm compared to the outside world. A pure white divine hall stood in the forbidden grounds. It let out a faint, silver light that appeared like the glow of the moon. Fairy Hao Yu's figure sat on a jade bed within the divine hall. The moment the powerful formation in outer space shattered, her eyes suddenly opened. She gazed through the obstructions of the divine hall and could see everything happening in the outside world. She really has left, and much earlier than I anticipated. The tunnel to the saint's world has been opened. I can leave as well. Once I reach the saint's world, I'll be able to recover my body with a secret technique, Fairy Hao Yu murmured to herself. A gleam of light flashed through her eyes. She was eager to leave. She had been trapped on this lower world for a very long time. She was extremely eager to return to the saint's world and tell her father about Nan Potion's scheme. That was what she thought, but Fairy Hao Yu did not take action immediately. She murmured, "In my current state, it would be extremely difficult to return all by myself. I'd have to pay a huge price to pass through the tunnel, and I might even lose the ability to keep myself safe. If I can't even do that, I'll probably die during the journey back to the Moon God Hall. I've waited tens of thousands of years already, so it's fine if I wait a few more decades. Jian Chen won't stick around for much longer. I'll spend a few decades waiting for him. If he dies to the hands of the people who seem like spirit sages, I'll just ask them to cooperate with me. Fairy Haiyu did not treat Jian Chen's life with much importance. She had accepted Yu Yu as her disciple because of Jian Chen and had even interfered and saved Jian Chen when he had been trapped in the miniature world of the protector Changyang clan. She didn't want Jian Chen to die then since she could use him to reach the higher world in the future. Fairy Haiyu did not treat the protector clans with any importance, which was why she helped Jian Chen break out without any hesitation. To her, it was simply effortless work. However, she was extremely fearful of the Forsaken Saint race, which was extremely likely to be a part of the spirit sages in the saints' world. She dared not to offend them. Her relationship with Jian Chen was not particularly deep. They were not even friends. They were just cooperating with one another. Outer space gradually settled down and the tunnel leading to the world of Forsaken Saints closed very quickly as well. The Ice Goddess Hall had left the world through that tunnel. The mysterious organization had ceased to exist on the Tian Yuan continent. However, when the tunnel was about to close, two figures suddenly shot out of the death nest. They charged away from the Tian Yuan continent like loose arrows, headed toward the tunnel. A gleam of light immediately flashed through Jian Chen's eyes when he saw the two figures. He immediately dismissed his other thoughts and coldly said, "It's Kaiser and the Tiger Emperor form the Beast God continent. It looks like the two of them actually want to go to the Saints' world. It's time for your revenge, Xiao Bai." The white tiger had reverted to his beast form. His eyes shone with a vicious light as he gave off a heavy killing intent. Coupled with a deafening roar, he immediately disappeared with a single leap. When he reappeared, he was in outer space, extremely far from the continent. He just happened to appear before Kaiser and Lankiros. Compared to the past, the two of them looked dispirited. They had lost their dignified appearances. When they saw the white tiger suddenly block them, their faces drastically changed. Without any hesitation, the two of them separated. They wanted to make their way around the white tiger and enter the tunnel. The white tiger had reached the origin realm, so the two of them gave up on the notion of putting up a fight. They chose to flee without any hesitation at all. However, how could the white tiger let them enter the tunnel? With a deep and furious growl, the wings on his back gently shook as two strands of force of slaughter shot out. The strands pursued the two of them as blades. Spurt. Spurt. The blades condensed from the force of slaughter mercilessly beheaded the two of them. They had become saint emperors many years ago and had been two great rulers who had reigned supreme in certain regions, yet they were unable to fight the white tiger. They were as puny as ants. The white tiger sealed up their heads, sealing in their souls. He took their heads back with him to the Beast God Hall. His mother, Rum Guinness, was still in there. He wanted to deal with the two saint emperors while his mother watched. Kaiser and the Tiger Emperor had schemed against the white tiger several times in the past, attempting to possess his body and obtain his bloodline so that they could venture to the 99th floor of the Beast God Hall for the Beast God's legacy. The death of the white tiger's father was also secretly orchestrated by them, and even Rum Guinness had almost died. All these matters had stoked the flames between the white tiger and the two saint emperors. Even though the threat of the foreign world loomed heavy, where everyone from the four races had put aside their differences and were working together to fend off the world of Forsaken Saints, the white tiger was still unwilling to let the two of them escape. Chapter 1566. The final ray of hope. No one sympathized with the two former rulers from the Beast God continent, nor did anyone plead for them. Even the Saint Emperor from the Peng clan, Zhangxiong, stood to one side as he silently watched the show unfold. He sighed and sighed. The seals completely vanished. I can no longer feel that pressure in the depths of my soul. We can break through now. Gui Haidao was overjoyed and spoke excitedly. He had become quite eager. It's just a pity that that girl Changyang Mingyue left with the Ice Goddess Hall. I may not have known her for very long, but I know that she's definitely not someone who flees in the face of danger. She must have been forced to leave along with the Ice Goddess Hall, taken away by that protector Shui against her will. Now that we've lost a returnance expert, it will be even more difficult to use the Divine Hall to block the tunnel when the Spirit King attacks, so we need to break through as soon as possible. However, to prevent anything from happening to the Divine Hall while we are gone, only 2 of us can break through at the same time at most, Yang Lai said rather eagerly as well. If it had not been for the sealing formation before, the 3 of them would have broken through to the origin realm long ago. Great-grandfather, the 3 of you should go break through. There's enough of us in the Divine Hall. As long as we don't run out of energy, the Spirit King won't be able to move the Divine Hall, Jian Chen said to the 3 of them. Jian Chen's right. Yang Lai, Gui Haidao, you 2 go break through first. Maintaining the Divine Hall requires even more origin realm experts. I'll stay here for now and will go break through once the 2 of you are done, said Feng Xiaotian. Yang Lai and Gui Haidao hesitated before leaving. They left for an unknown place through a space gate. They did not choose to go into seclusion within the Divine Hall even though it was extremely safe, but if the Divine Hall was attacked by experts from the foreign world, they would definitely find it hard to cultivate. While the tunnel to the Saints' world gradually vanished, the space that had shattered when the formation was destroyed slowly healed up as well. Rays of light reappeared, illuminating the entire world once again, returning it to daytime. Jian Chen, Shengguan Mu'er, the Sea Goddess, Tian Jian, and the others, including various Saint Kings and Saint Emperors, all returned to the Divine Hall. They all made preparations to offer their energy to the Divine Hall at any moment. They had lost a returnance expert since Changyang Mingyue had departed, so many sainthood experts became heavy-hearted. Even though Feng Xiaotian, Gui Daidao, and Yang Lai would be able to reach the origin realm once again, they would not be able to make up for the loss of a returnance expert since they would only reach receival once they broke through. Even if the 3 of them worked together, they would never be the opponent of a returnance expert as long as they remained ordinary receival experts. For a time, a heavy and suffocating atmosphere filled the entire Divine Hall. Many sainthood experts even began to experience despair. They believed that the next few decades would be the rest of their lives. Once the Divine Hall could no longer be supported, their doomsday, as well as the world's doomsday, would come. If it were not for the fact that there were still a few origin realm experts present, a few weak-willed people probably would have began to struggle for their lives out of desperation. They would commit unexpected actions while those overwhelmed by despair would lose their rationality. Of course, not everyone was weak-willed, but there were definitely people who would succumb to terror. At the same time, there were a few people who mentioned the idea of fleeing to the Saints' world. After all, the seal was gone now, so the upper world was no longer inaccessible like in the past. However, what Feng Xiaotian said made them give up on that thought. He said, if you haven't reached the origin realm, it's impossible for you to pass through the tunnel between the 2 worlds. The moment you enter it, you will be crushed into oblivion by the pressure. You'll suffer a death far more miserable than dying to the hands of the foreigners. Brother, that powerful sister has left. What do we do now? Inside the Divine Hall, Xiaoling helplessly looked at Jian Chen. Her gaze was uneasy and fearful. She was still an immature girl. She could sense the heavy atmosphere, which ended up affecting her. Sister, don't be scared. There's nothing to fear. It's just dying at most, Xiao Jin said apathetically. He only seemed to be 3 or 4 years old and was less than a meter tall, yet he was currently comforting Xiaoling, who was much older than him. This scene was rather hilarious. Jian Chen rubbed Xiaoling's head and smiled. Don't worry, Xiaoling, believe in me, I have an idea. Okay, I believe in you. Xiaoling seemed to have settled down after seeing how confident Jian Chen was. She firmly nodded while her gaze became determined. However, only Xiaoling would believe in such a thing. Tian Jian, the sea goddess, Feng Xiaotian, and so on did not believe a single word. They grimly frowned. Jian Chen glanced at Shangguan Mu'er and sighed inside. Originally, Changyang Mingyue had been a ray of hope that could to deal with this threat, but with her departure, the hope was lost as well. Now, the final ray of hope lay with Shangguan Mu'er and him. Shangguan Mu'er's face became rather unnatural when she sensed Jian Chen's gaze. The light in her eyes flickered uneasily, but in the end, she seemed to make up her mind. She said to Jian Chen through a communication technique, "Let's do it." Shangguan Mu'er also understood the situation at hand. She could have continued to place her hope on Changyang Mingyue earlier, but she knew now that both her father and her son's life rested with her decision. Jian Chen immediately became relieved. He replied, "All right, let's go to Dragon Island once my great-grandfather reaches the Origin Realm successfully." Shangguan Mu'er and Jian Chen spoke to each other through communication techniques, so no one present could hear what they had agreed to do. Yang Lai, Gui Haidao, and Feng Xiaotian had all been Origin Realm experts before, so their breakthrough could only be described as smooth. In just 2 short days, all 3 of them reached the Origin Realm. However, they were only at early receival. They needed to absorb Origin energy and slowly cultivate their way back to their former levels. Now that the Divine Hall had gained 3 true Origin Realm experts, Jian Chen and Shangguan Mu'er could finally leave without any worries. Very soon, everyone heard of their departure. The 2 of them had gone to find a way to completely eliminate the threat of the foreign world. When they returned in a few years or several decades, the foreign world would no longer be able to shake up the Tianyuan continent. Many people refused to believe this news, but with the current circumstances, they had no choice but to believe in them because this was their final ray of hope lay. Chapter 1567, Unexpected Encounter on Dragon Island. Jian Chen and Shangguan Mu'er arrived on the outskirts of Dragon Island once again. During ancient times, the Yinyang Saint Rock had fallen on Dragon Island from outer space. It was then moved into the depths of the endless cosmos through Mo Tianyun's great abilities. Thus, it was extremely far away. Jian Chen was unable to sense where it was even with his current strength. If he had to fly to it from the Tianyuan continent, it would take him several decades or even a century at full speed. As a result, there was only one convenient path to the Yinyang Saint Rock. That path was through the formation on the island, which Mo Tianyun created long ago. The formation could teleport people to the Yinyang Saint Rock and was the only shortcut around. Jian Chen and Shangguan Mu'er both sighed in amazement when they revisited Dragon Island. They saw that the landscape of the island had not changed at all. When they had first come to the island, they had to move carefully in order to avoid the mindless living corpses that moved around on the island, or they would have ended up dead after a single mistake. But now, the many living corpses that roamed the island no longer posed a threat to them. Even some of the few, powerful dragon souls in the depths of the island were as puny as insects to them. There's still quite a few heavenly resources on the island. Their age is shockingly great, but it's a pity that they're all low grade, so they're useless to us. Let's go to the Lunastran pit and go to where the Yinyang Saint Rock is, Jian Chen said to Shangguan Mu'er. Shangguan Mu'er had removed her veil, revealing her indescribable beauty. She silently traveled beside Jian Chen while carrying her simple-looking zither. She silently nodded to what Jian Chen had said while some mixed feelings appeared in her eyes. Just as Jian Chen was about to move to the Lunastran pit, his facial expression suddenly changed. He produced a gentle interjection of surprise before immediately changing direction. He had originally started moving toward the Lunastran pit, but now he was making his way into the depths of the island. A strange light filled Shangguan Mu'er's eyes as well. She followed behind Jian Chen and flew toward the depths of the island as well. There were formations 10 meters above Dragon Island. These formations were so powerful that they posed a threat to Saint Emperors. They also contained terrifying killing formations, so when a person who was not a part of the dragon clan surpassed the 10-meter threshold, the formations would immediately rip open and devour them like a pair of jaws. However, these formations could not do anything to Origin Realm experts. Jianshen and Shangguan Mu'er ignored the formations in the air as they shot toward the center of the island with lightning-like speed. As the two of them moved, the surrounding space violently shook, forming spatial cracks. Dragon Island was very large, but with their speed, they crossed half of it in just a short moment. They arrived at the center of the island. There was a 10-meter-wide golden door in the sky. Illusory dragon souls would fly out from it from time to time and wander mindlessly around the depths of the island. Jianshen was familiar with this place. The dragon clan found the land sacred, a necropolis built within a miniature world. Jianshen and Shangguan Mu'er erased their presences and stood at the entrance. They did not go in. It was the dragon clan's most sacred region, where all the dragons that had passed away had been buried. It was blasphemy for an outsider to enter. Huge, illusory dragons wandered around the miniature world. However, at this moment, even though Jianshen and Shangguan Mu'er stood right at the doorway, the souls failed to sense their existences at all. Even when some of the dragon souls brushed past them, they felt nothing. It appeared like the two of them did not exist in the eyes of the dragon souls at all. Seniors Rui Jin, He Yu, and Hong Lian are actually cultivating inside, Jianshen softly murmured. He had not seen them since he had been forcefully separated from them at the Ice Goddess Hall. He had not found their presences even when his soul had enveloped the territories of the four races. He had accidentally come across them by visiting the island today. So much time has already passed. Many people on the Tianyuan continent have become Saint Emperors, including Saint Kings who had once been weaker than them. Yet, the three of them still remain at the great perfection of Saint King, Shangguan Mu'er gently said while standing beside Jianshen. She glanced at Jianshen, as if she was blaming him. There were many people on the Tianyuan continent that Jianshen was not familiar with, yet he had magnanimously used violet cloud peaches and comprehension tea leaves on them, helping them become Saint Emperors. However, Rui Jin, Hong Lian, and He Yu had assisted Jianshen countless times. He relied on them the most any time he needed to hold his ground against the protector clans, but they still remained at the great perfection of Saint King and had not become Saint Emperors, so Shangguan Mu'er found their situations to be rather awful. Sigh, I should have realized that the three seniors would have come here to cultivate. I should have come and looked here long ago, but the world of forsaken saints has made me push this matter back. I could never find the time. Jianshen was riddled with guilt when he sensed that the three of them still remained at the great perfection of Saint King. The three of them had shown him great kindness, so great that he would probably never be able to completely return the favor. Jianshen's heart ached when he thought about how many weak Saint Kings had already broken through to Saint Emperor several years ago, yet the three of them still devoted themselves to breaking through to Saint Emperor. He found it unacceptable. It might be a good thing that the three seniors did not break through beforehand. At the very least, they did not have to take part in the battle against the foreign world. They do have the armor and legacy treasures that possess origin energy, but they're still unable to stand their ground against origin realm experts, said Shangguan Mu'er. The fact that the three of them had spent all these years in seclusion might have been a blessing. If they had broken through and had taken part in the battle against the foreign world, they would not be the opponents of receival experts or returnance experts even with their origin energy armor. Something's off. The three seniors still remain at the great perfection of Saint King, but their presences are no weaker than a Saint Emperor. They are even more powerful than the presence of regular Saint Emperors. Jianshen's eyes narrowed. He stared into the depths of the necropolis. Although he was unable to see them due to all the visual obstructions, he could clearly sense their presences. They're using a greater cultivation method. It's far surpassed Saint Tier. Jianshen was shocked. Saint Tier battle skills and cultivation methods were the highest quality in this world. If a battle skill or cultivation method surpassed the Saint Tier, it would no longer belong to this world. It would have originated from a higher world. Has the ancient winged tiger god appeared again? Who else would help them aside from him? And seniors Rui Jin, Hong Lian, and He Yu's armors and weapons all came from the winged tiger god as well. The three of them had been trapped in the Ice Goddess Hall in the past. When I visited the Ice Goddess Hall again, Protector Shui said that the three of them had been saved already. Is the mysterious expert who saved them the winged tiger god? Did he give the three of them even better cultivation methods when he saved them? Jianshan furrowed his brows in thought, but any conclusion he came up with was only a guess. There was no actual evidence to support his thoughts. Rui Jin, Hong Lian, and He Yu's cultivation had reached a crucial period. They would soon become Saint Emperors. They would be far more powerful than regular Saint Emperors when they did break through, so Jianshan did not disturb them. Instead, he took out 3 space rings while standing outside the miniature world. Each space ring contained a 5th-grade violet cloud peach and comprehension tea leaf as well as water from the springs of life. Jianshan also left behind a stone tablet. He had engraved the method of consuming the heavenly resources on the stone tablet. After preparing all that, he gently guided the 3 space rings into the miniature world, placing them silently next to his cultivating seniors. As soon as they roused from cultivation, they would discover the space rings. Chapter 1568. The evil power Jianshan and Shangguan Mu'er left the entryway after leaving behind the space rings. They made their way to the Lunastran Pit. The Lunastran Pit was an extremely deep ditch on Dragon Island. The ditch was created when the Yinyang Saint Rock crashed into the island, and the odd phenomena that started appearing on Dragon Island was due to the rock. Many living corpses had appeared, and then the winged tiger god disappeared from the world along with the dragon and phoenix clans. Jianshan and Shangguan Mu'er arrived inside the pit filled with stardust. Stardust was a material for forging the twin swords into immortal artifacts. It was one of the best materials on the Tianyuan continent, but it was basically worth nothing in the saints' world. Mo Tianyun had created the formations at the bottom of the pit. The formations led to the location of the rock. Fortunately, the sword spirits knew this formation, so Jianshan and Shangguan Mu'er passed through it by following the instructions of the sword spirits. They followed a specific pattern and location for entry. When they took their 8th step, the landscape around them suddenly changed. They had left the pit and appeared in the dark, cold reaches of outer space. Stars glimmered all around them as far as they could see. The planet the Tianyuan continent lay on was hidden among all the stars. Jianshan and Shangguan Mu'er crossed an unimaginably great distance by taking that final step. They had appeared in a location so far away from the Tianyuan continent that even they were not certain where they were. Although the two of them had experienced this in the past, they were still shocked, and their shock was even greater than the first time. The two of them were only saint rulers when they experienced this the first time they came. Both their knowledge and insight was extremely limited when they first teleported. They thought that one could cast formations that could transport people across such distances just by surpassing Saint Emperor. Yet only after becoming Origin Realm experts did they gain an even deeper understanding of how complex the formation was. They could move as they wished through outer space, but they were limited to a certain distance. They would not find it problematic to visit a nearby moon, but if they wanted to come to this distant planet, they would end up lost in the sea of stars, and that was not taking into account the amount of time they needed to devote to traveling. They would not be able to find their way back if it were not for the formation beneath them. Follow my steps. Don't take a single wrong step. If you're off by a slight amount, you'll become lost, Jianshan sternly said to Shangguan Mu'er through a communication technique. Even he refused to be careless at that moment. He listened to the sword spirits. Shangguan Mu'er nodded slightly. She understood why she needed to be careful. She obediently stood behind Jianshan, unwilling to take a single wrong step. With the assistance of the sword spirits, every step taken by Jianshan and Shangguan Mu'er happened to land on a crucial point in space. With each step, the tremendous sea of stars around them would change. This was due to the fact that they were traversing great distances with each step. However, when they took their 30th step, their surroundings suddenly changed. With a closer look, one would realize the two of them were actually in a tunnel that was 10 meters wide. Beyond the tunnel was chaotic, making it impossible to see anything. Every process was the same as when they had first visited this place. Jian Shen and Shangguan Mu'er passed through the tunnel and successfully arrived near the Yinyang Saint Rock. They appeared in a hazy, gray space that lacked any signs of life. The entire world was dead silent. There had been nothing here originally, but when Mo Tianyun moved the rock here, the yin and yang qi that leaked out of the rock changed the laws of the world. Yin and yang qi was responsible for creating everything in the universe, so it gradually formed a dead world. Jian Shen felt relief after entering the world of the Yinyang Saint Rock. The two of them made their way to where the rock lay with ease. The place the rock rested was above a conical ditch. The rock hovered above the deepest part of the ditch. The rock let out a radiant white and black light, completely obscuring its surface, but Jian Shen was still able to see the rock hidden within the light. The Yinyang Saint Rock was not big. It only seemed to be the size of a fist. The fist was both black and white. However, a terrifying energy was hidden inside, enough to startle Jian Shen. If the energy inside the rock erupted, it would destroy the entire universe. At the same time, Jian Shen could clearly see the specks of red light that flickered in the rock. They seemed to glimmer with life. Jian Shen had no idea what the red light was, but the moment he saw them, all the hair on his body stood on end. A certain coldness uncontrollably penetrated his body, all the way down to his bones. Even his heart began to beat a heavy beat at that moment. He was not the only one who experienced this. Even Shangguan Mu'er revealed a different expression. Her eyes were fixated on the rock. She felt the same way as Jian Shen. Is this the evil energy hidden within the Yinyang Saint Rock? Jian Shen stared at the light that shot into the sky as well as the specks of red light inside the rock. He was extremely shocked. Jian Shen had experienced such intense feelings after just a single glance. The terror of the evil power had greatly exceeded anything Jian Shen could imagine. What an evil power! Once this power breaks free, it will lead to a destructive disaster. Looks like this is the disaster of the world. It can't be stopped by people. Only the primordial god silk will work. The illusory figures of the sword spirits appeared as they sternly stared at the rock. Suddenly, their faces changed as they both cried out, "Oh no, the evil power inside is actually absorbing the yin and yang qi. It's only becoming stronger. We have to find a way to stop it, or once it reaches a certain state, even the primordial god silk won't be able to stop it. But the evil power is hidden within the rock, and we can't touch the rock either. If the balance between yin and yang is lost, we'll probably face disaster even without the evil power fully maturing." Jian Shen frowned. "We can only fight on behalf of the yin and yang qi now. Master, you can't waste any time. Immediately start absorbing the yin and yang qi. Absorb as much of it as you can. We cannot let the evil power continue growing," Qing Suo said with a heavy voice. Chapter 1569. The Spirit King enters seclusion. While Shangguan Mu'er and Jian Shen entered tunnel to the Yinyang Saint Rock with the hopes of the four races on the Tianyuan continent, the Spirit King, who was the source of all their despair, currently stood on the top of the world mountains. He stared at the tunnel, which constantly distorted. The Spirit King possessed an extremely ordinary appearance. His hair was casually draped across his shoulders, and both his appearance and attire seemed extremely normal. He did not go to any great lengths to dress himself. If he were to be thrown into a crowd, no one would notice him. Perhaps the only impressionable feature about the Spirit King was the extraordinary determination and iron will present on his face. However, beneath his ordinary appearance was supreme strength and a terrifying prestige that caused all Origin Realm experts of the world of Forsaken Saints to tremble. Even Xiongzhong and Ouyang Yangwen dared not to disobey him. The Spirit King currently stood with his arms across. He nonchalantly stared at the tunnel before him as a light flickered through his deep, dark eyes from time to time. His gaze was ordinary at times and sharp at others, but when his eyes were sharp, they seemed like heavenly swords with pressing presences. Even reciprocity experts at the same cultivation level as the Spirit King would feel extremely shocked. A dark, metal sword hovered beside the Spirit King. The sword was forged from an unknown material, so its dark surface made it seem extremely simple and inconspicuous. It was nothing like shiny, treasured swords. However, the sword was able to hover there by itself without the support of any power. Its tip pointed toward the ground as it remained there. Ouyang Yangwen and the other protectors and elders stood behind the Spirit King. They all held their breath and stood silently, afraid to breathe too loudly. Both the Receival protectors and Returnance elders seemed to have lost all their prestige as Origin Realm experts at that moment. They seemed like completely different people compared to the confidence and grandeur they exhibited on the Tian Yuan continent. A few people were now missing among the elders and protectors. They had died on the Tian Yuan continent. Many of them were pale-faced and haggard as well, as if they were sick. Many of their robes still contained traces of blood, clearly still injured from the wounds they had received on the Tian Yuan continent. I never thought that the Tian Yuan continent would possess such a powerful divine hull. It really is a supreme treasure, no worse than our 3 supreme treasures. Even I cannot damage it at all. The Tian Yuan continent really is complicated. We've actually underestimated their power time and time again. They're actually able to produce so many Receival and Returnance experts while lacking Origin energy, which really is surprising, Ouyang Yangwen said slowly. His voice was heavy and deep. It did not seem to contain any signs of emotions at all. The elders all stood silently behind him. They understood the Spirit King tone. They knew that he seemed calm right now, but he had actually been truly angered. This was all because they had lost a Returnance expert during the battle. Aside from the elder, they had even lost a few Receival experts. The world of Forsaken Saints suffered heavy losses during their invasion of the Tian Yuan continent. Although they still had 7 elders and over 20 protectors, the losses this time really did take a heavy toll on the Tian Yuan continent. Is that Jian Shen from the Tian Yuan continent really this powerful? Where even 2 mid-Returnance elders can't handle him? The Spirit King spoke once again. His voice was deep like before while his eyes remained fixed on the tunnel before him. In the past, he had crossed through the tunnel with the Cloudstream sword and fought above the Tian Yuan continent in outer space. Jian Shen had also revealed his abilities from the way of the sword then, but he was nowhere as powerful at that time. Although a few decades had already passed since then, more than enough for prodigies to make great progress in cultivation, the Tian Yuan continent lacked Origin energy. In such an environment, no matter how talented a prodigy was, it would be extremely difficult to reach the Origin realm, let alone make any major breakthroughs. Spirit King, Jian Shen is indeed powerful. Elder Bai and I were unable to kill him together when he was heavily injured. We only managed to keep him suppressed. At the same time, his recovery rate is extremely shocking. No matter how heavily injured he is, he could recover in an extremely short amount of time. An old man stepped forward and spoke. A gleam of light flickered through Ouyang Yangwen's eyes. After a moment of hesitation, he said with mixed feelings, "Spirit King, there's one more thing that I must say." Ouyang Yangwen also felt extremely unsettled when he decided to speak. He did not know how the Spirit King would react once he told him that. "Speak." The Spirit King's voice was no different than before. Ouyang Yangwen sucked in a deep breath and slowly said, "Jian Shen's strength has surpassed mid-Returnance, where even some late Returnance experts aren't his opponent, but his true strength has not reached the Origin realm. Jian Shen is actually a Saint Emperor." Many protectors and elders immediately revealed drastically different expressions. Their faces were filled with disbelief. How is this possible? The difference between sainthood and the Origin realm is an untraversable chasm. It's no exaggeration to describe them as heaven and earth. Jian Shen may have comprehended the way of the sword and is able to make up for this gap, but he can't be so impressive where he can fight late Returnance experts as a Saint Emperor. He's only an inch away from being able to fend off reciprocity experts, a protector immediately cried out, having forgotten that the Spirit King was present. Jian Shen comprehended the way of the sword, the power of laws, so fighting against receival experts was not that surprising. However, they were unable to accept the fact that he was able to erupt with the battle prowess equivalent to late returnants as a Saint Emperor. Even the Spirit King did not possess such battle prowess in the past. Ouyang Yangwen nervously looked at the Spirit King. He was arrogant and condensing on the Tian Yuan continent, but before the Spirit King, he was riddled with fear. Ouyang Yangwen was taken aback. The Spirit King remained very calm and composed, as if the unbelievable piece of news did not make the Spirit King waver at all. Jian Shen. Jian Shen, the Spirit King murmured gently. Ever since he had fought against Jian Shen, the name became deeply engraved in his mind. This was not the first time he had muttered the name under his breath. It was also at this moment that the Spirit King's gaze became extremely deep. He stared at the distorting tunnel before him and sank into a long period of silence. The protectors and elders of the foreign world all stood there silently. None of them dared to disturb the Spirit King's train of thought. After quite a while, the Spirit King slowly turned around. He made his way down the mountain and said, "I'm going into seclusion in an attempt to break through beyond the origin realm. Do not disturb me during this period of time unless there's something extremely important. The matters of the Sacred Spirit Hall will continue as usual and will be carried out by the 7 elders. Ouyang Yangwei, you've remained at late returnants for many years now, so break through to reciprocity as soon as possible. Once I emerge from seclusion, I will take our people, the Spirit Sages, and charge out of here." All the elders and protectors immediately became shocked by what the Spirit King had said. This time, the Spirit King actually wanted to leave the origin realm. Would that mean the legendary godhood? Godhood had always been a legend in the world of Forsaken Saints. No one had ever reached that level of cultivation throughout history because no one had ever managed to comprehend laws, and laws were the key to godhood. People would remain stuck at the origin realm for all of their eternity if they did not grasp any laws, making it impossible for them to reach godhood. Chapter 1570. 3 years in a flash. The origin realm experts remained despite the Spirit King's departure. Many of them were confused. That's strange. Why would the great Spirit King announce that he's going into secluded cultivation at such a time? The entrance to the Tian Yuan continent may be blocked by a powerful divine hall, but they won't be able to last for very long with their strength. If the Spirit King constantly attacks the divine hall, with his battle prowess equivalent to a godhood expert, the divine hall will quickly run out of energy. Without the divine hall, the people from the Tian Yuan continent won't be able to stop the elders and protectors with their strength, a protector said out of confusion. His eyes were filled with uncontainable respect as he gazed in the direction the Spirit King had disappeared in. The Spirit King obviously has his reasons for not doing that, and we all saw what happened when the Spirit King attacked the divine hall. At the very start, the Spirit King was able to shake the divine hall, but near the end, the divine hall gradually stabilized and did not move even after the Spirit King's full-powered attack. We can conclude from that the divine hall's power definitely increased. It would be quite difficult even for the Spirit King to waste away all of its energy, and if the people on the Tian Yuan continent ingest recovery heavenly resources, they'll be able to last even longer, possibly even several centuries. After all, their world's just far too unusual. They have many origin realm exerts despite lacking origin energy. That's basically impossible, so the world's far more complicated than we imagined it to be. Why waste so much time meaninglessly attacking a divine hall when you can devote this time to cultivation? The Spirit King might actually be able to reach the legendary godhood with his talent. At that time, wouldn't it be a piece of cake for the Spirit King to smash through the divine hall, said another protector. However, when he mentioned the Spirit King, his voice became filled with reverence. There's something else. If the people on the Tian Yuan continent use the divine hall to flee into outer space or enter the saint's world, we wouldn't be able to obtain the divine hall. If the Spirit King reaches godhood, then the people from the other world won't be able to escape even if they want to. Even if they hide in the depths of outer space, the Spirit King will still be able to find them. Legend has it that only godhood experts can wander outer space and avoid becoming lost. Many protectors agreed with what was being said. Godhood experts had never appeared in the world of Forsaken Saints, and the Spirit King was still in between mid-reciprocity and late reciprocity. Logically speaking, it was impossible for someone to traverse such a great gap and reach godhood, but the current Spirit King possessed unprecedented talent. Not only had he reached his current level of cultivation in a little over 800 years, allowing him to become the only ruler in the world of Forsaken Saints, but he had even comprehended laws, disproving the rumor that no one could comprehend laws in the world of Forsaken Saints. Others may not have been able to do it, but that did not mean the Spirit King could not do it. All the elders and protectors were extremely certain that if the Spirit King devoted himself to secluded cultivation, he would be able to reach godhood soon. Ouyang Yangwen walked over. His glance passed the protectors with a sunken face and coldly said, "Do not doubt the Spirit King's judgment. He's always right. I need to enter seclusion as well and reach reciprocity as soon as possible. While I am in seclusion, you must enter the tunnel and attack the Divine Hall at all times. Even if you can't damage it, you'll waste away its energy. We can't let the people from the other world have it easy. Our protectors and elders can't die in vain." "Yes, Grand Elder." The protectors all responded together. In a world where strength was supreme, Ouyang Yangwen was the greatest aside from the Spirit King. The protectors would never disobey Ouyang Yangwen. The other elders were not as powerful as Ouyang Yangwen, but since they were also elders and at returnants, they did not fear him. Ouyang Yangwen was unable to order them around either. Ouyang Yangwen glanced at the injured Xiongzhong. A gleam of cold light flickered through his eyes as he left. Xiongzhong had always been his rival, and the elders were split in two factions as well. One of the factions was led by Ouyang Yangwen while the other was led by Xiongzhong. The elder that had been killed by Jian Chen belonged to Ouyang Yangwen's side. Ouyang Yangwen's actually going to attempt to break through. He's already slightly more powerful than me, so if he does break through, I'll be less of an opponent to him if I remain at late returnants. I have to enter seclusion as well and break through as soon as possible, Xiongzhong thought before leaving as well. He also entered seclusion. In the blink of an eye, 3 years passed. During that time, the Spirit King, Ouyang Yangwen, and Xiongzhong had all remained in seclusion. Receival protectors were stationed on the peak of the world mountains and elders would come and check on the situation from time to time. During those 3 years, the protectors had been split into 5 groups. The groups would cooperate with a few elders and attack the Divine Hall on the Tianyuan continent. Their attacks failed to make the tunnel collapse at all. The tunnel remained stable at all times, but the tunnel was not stable enough to endure the shockwaves of battle between returnants experts and reciprocity experts were still unable to enter it. A few changes had happened on the Tianyuan continent as well. These changes mainly happened with the 4 huge cracks that spanned the continent. Each crack was several dozen kilometers wide and was bottomless. They had become 4 raging rivers now, forming quite an obstruction to many experts who had not become Heaven Saint Masters. Transportation over water and air was set up to cross the 4 raging rivers. They were crucial to many weaker fighters who needed to traverse the rivers. Huge ships were present everywhere along the rivers as well. There were also many flying magical beasts, who flew quickly through the air. Several or even several dozen fighters would be present on each magical beast's back. Most of the magical beasts were raised by a few organizations and were valuable tools of transport between the 2 banks of the river. They were expensive to use and could not be afforded by regular people. The Supreme Divine Hall continued to block the entrance to the tunnel. The ruins of Mercenary City were nearby and were also the center of the great battle that had occurred in the past, so the Divine Hall stood where the 4 rivers intersected. However, powerful pulses of energy and a terrifying pressure permeated the surrounding 100 kilometers around the tunnel. They pushed the water away, so the cracks were empty there. The surrounding 1,000 kilometers was labeled a forbidden zone as well. Only sainthood experts could enter the forbidden zone. Heavy booms constantly rang out from the Supreme Divine Hall over the past 3 years, going on for days on end. They were audible several thousand kilometers away and sometimes could be heard tens of thousand kilometers away. The people in the surroundings had grown accustomed to the sound, so they no longer found it strange. Chapter 1571, New Patriarch of the Changyang Clan. 1. The Divine Hall above the tunnel was split into 2 sections. The interior section was the most central part of the Divine Hall. Only Tianjian, who controlled the Divine Hall, and the Origin Realm experts of the 4 races could enter this section. The exterior section was where all the sainthood experts remained. All the saint rulers, saint kings, and saint emperors gathered there, channeling all their energy into the Supreme Divine Hall. They worked with the Origin Realm experts to support the Divine Hall. During those 3 years, the sainthood experts were split into 4 groups, who would each take turns. Each group was composed of a single race. The sainthood experts of the same race were required to maintain the Divine Hall for 10 days, and during those days, they would channel 90% of all the saint force they had into the Divine Hall. The groups would change after those 10 days, and the depleted group would have a month to replenish their saint force. This cycle remained unchanged during those 3 years. The sainthood experts of the 4 races had increased after the battle 3 years ago. No additional saint emperors had appeared, but quite a few saint kings and saint rulers appeared, especially saint rulers. Each race had gained over 100 of them across the 3 short years, 500 overall. Many experts from the 4 races seemed to realize that breaking through to sainthood had become easier than 3 years ago. However, this advantage only helped Heaven's Saint Masters when they broke through to Saint Ruler and was no longer as obvious to higher cultivation realms. Going from Saint King to Saint Emperor remained as difficult as before. This was why the number of Saint Emperors had not increased among the 4 races in 3 years. Tianjian sat on the white jade seat in the interior region of the Supreme Divine Hall. He channeled everyone's power into the formations through the seat, maintaining the Divine Hall's suppression. Yang Lai, Gui Hai Yidao, Feng Shaotian, the Sea Goddess, Houston, Shao Jin, Shao Ling, and the winged tiger god in human form all gathered around Tianjian. Aside from Tai Ta, Jian Shen, and the Heavenly Enchantress, all the Origin Realm experts in the world were present. The Sainthood experts took 10-day shifts for the past 3 years, but the Origin Realm experts were unable to enjoy such a vacation. Throughout those 3 years, all of them remained within the Divine Hall, not taking a single step away. Even when they ran out of Origin energy, they would recover it all by ingesting Jian Chen's mortal energy fruit. They needed to be prepared for when the Spirit King attacked the Divine Hall. Jian Chen, Tai Ta, and Shangguan Mu'er were not present, so if the Spirit King suddenly attacked them, they had to devote everything they had to maintaining the Divine Hall and, with the support from the Sainthood experts, stop him. As a result, not a single Origin Realm expert could leave, or the Divine Hall would run out of power and the Spirit King would be able to blast the Divine Hall away. The world of Forsaken Saints was so strong that even when Tai Ta, Jian Chen, Shangguan Mu'er, and Changyang Mingyue had been present, they had not been their opponents, not to mention the fact that Changyang Mingyue had gone to the Saints' world and that Jian Chen and Shangguan Mu'er had left the Tianyuan continent. If their front lines collapsed, what was waiting them was a hellish disaster. They could not afford to be careless. Over the past 3 years, the foreign world has never stopped attacking the Divine Hall. Although the attacks have weakened, they still exhaust the Divine Hall's power. If they continue like this, we can only defend the continent for 100 years at most, and I believe that the attacks from them will gradually become stronger. At that time, will last an even shorter amount of time. The Sea Goddess frowned. Just maintaining the Divine Hall in front of the tunnel was expending too much energy, so coupled with the constant attacks from the Origin Realm experts from the foreign world, the Divine Hall's power was rapidly being consumed. We should feel fortunate about how the Spirit King has not continued to attack the Divine Hall. When he attacked 3 years ago, we only managed to stabilize the Divine Hall with every Sainthood expert as well as Tai Ta, Jian Chen, and Shangguan Mu'er. Now that they're no longer here, it'll be extremely difficult for us to stop any attacks from the Spirit King. If he constantly attacks the Divine Hall, we will probably only last for a decade or less, said Yang Lai. His eyes became filled with fear as soon as he mentioned the Spirit King. The Spirit King's strength exceeded Yang Lai, Gui Hai Yidao, and Feng Xiaotian's power when they were in their prime. After all, they were only Origin Realm experts when they roamed the Saints' world in the past. The Spirit King possessed battle prowess equivalent to Godhood experts. Tai Ta has gone to where Ergens has been sealed. When he returns, his strength will definitely have increased. We can all feel that the world is undergoing some minute changes as well. Though, we can't put them in words. There's still no origin energy, but it has clearly become much easier for Heaven's Saint Masters to break through to Saint Ruler. I believe that in a few years' time, breaking through to Saint King will become much easier as well and might even affect the breakthrough to Saint Emperor, Feng Xiaotian smiled. The changes to the world were a blessing to them because the four races would become more and more powerful as breakthroughs became easier and easier. Xiao Ling thought about what he said. She tilted her head and crisply said, "Do you think that the changes of the world are related to brother?" "It shouldn't be," Feng Xiaotian shook his head. He was a disciple from a large sect in the Saints' world. Even though he was just an ordinary disciple, he possessed extraordinary insight. Even Godhood experts were unable to make a world change, let alone Jian Chen, who was not even at Godhood. This day just happened to be the day when the human sainthood experts had completed their shift in the exterior section of the hall. The people replacing them were C-race experts. In less than 10 minutes, the two races completed their switch, and the humans all exited the Divine Hall. They were exhausted. Some people chose to recover their saint force within the Divine Hall among the C-race while others chose to leave. All the people who did choose to leave were people in charge of organizations on the Tianyuan continent. Among them was a dignified, middle-aged man in embroidered robes. He had poured 90% of his saint force into the Divine Hall during those 10 days, so his face was filled with exhaustion. As he made his way out of the Divine Hall, he came across many human experts. Whether they were saint rulers or saint kings, they all greeted him with smiles when they saw the middle-aged man. A few saint emperors even made their way over to talk to him. Even though he was only a saint king, he seemed extremely composed before the experts who were far more powerful than him. Even when he spoke to saint emperors, he did not show any special politeness. On the other hand, the saint emperors were extremely polite to him, talking to him with smiles, as if he was a valued guest. Humans were not the only people who behaved like respectfully. Even the replacement C-race experts treated the middle-aged man the same way. They were all extremely polite, whether it was a C-race saint kings or a C-race saint emperor. They seemed to be afraid of offending the middle-aged saint king. The middle-aged man stood out among the sainthood experts. The middle-aged man was Jian Chen's father, Changyang Ba. As the father of the greatest human expert, Changyang Ba possessed an extraordinary status, even when his strength was nothing before these people. Changyang Ba made his way out of the Divine Hall among the sainthood experts like a moon moving across the night sky through the stars. He clasped his hands at everyone and bid them farewell. As the human experts left one by one, only Changyang Ba was left with a few other people. Behind Changyang Ba silently stood 5 people. There was the symbol of a flame sewn onto their robes. Everyone was familiar with this symbol, whether they were from the Tianyuan continent, the Beast God continent, the Wasteland continent, or the Sea Realm, because the symbol represented the flame mercenaries. The 5 middle-aged men were not weak either. They were all saint kings, except they had used up 90% of their saint force in the Divine Hall, so they were rather pale. The 5 saint kings stood behind Changyang Ba like guards. They were emotionless and did not show any intentions of leaving. They would not go unless Changyang Ba left. Changyang Ba hovered in the sky. He looked at the shattered continent below him and gently sighed, "Let's go back to the clan." With that, one of the 5 saint kings immediately stepped forward. He used his abilities as a saint king to rip open space and create a space gate. The 5 of them only entered it after Changyangba. The 5 Saint Kings were the divine guards of the flame from the Flame Mercenaries. They were a part of the group who had joined the Flame Mercenaries in Walorant City of the Blue Wind Kingdom. Originally, it would have been impossible for them to even reach Earth Saint Master with their talent, but since they were loyal to the Flame Mercenaries in Jianchen decided to use large amounts of resources on them. Jianchen waited several decades, used a large amount of effort, and gave them various heavenly resources to them, allowing them to become experts on the continent. He had even bestowed them a name, the Divine Guards of the Flame. There were originally around 50 or 60 people in the Divine Guards of the Flame. They were all Saint Kings and formed the greatest strength of the Flame Mercenaries and were the protectors of the Flame Mercenaries. However, they suffered heavy casualties in the battle against the foreign world. Only 20 people emerged alive. Under Bai Lian's orders, 5 of the 20 were stationed at the Changyang clan, to protect the clan as well as to cement the Changyang clan's power and prestige. The Divine Guards of the Flame were all Saint Kings, but they did not possess the arrogance of one. Not a single one of them forgot who they were. They were guards and never did they forget who allowed them to possess what they had today. Chapter 1572, New Patriarch of the Changyang Clan. 2. Changyang Ba was the patriarch of the Changyang clan, and because of his youngest son, he was famous and had an incredible status on the Tian Yuan continent, the Beast God continent, the Sea Realm, and the Wasteland continent. However, the authority he possessed was pitiful compared to his status. The only people he could order around were the earliest people who had joined the Changyang clan as well as a few Heaven Saint Masters and Saint Rulers who had joined the clan out of Jianchen's prestige. However, the Saint Kings had only joined them because they admired Jianchen. They were willing to follow Jianchen's orders with their lives, but they would only, at most, behave respectfully when Changyang Ba, the patriarch of the clan, was around. The Saint Rulers and Saint Kings from the Zhu branch who dwelled in the Forbidden Grounds all possessed shocking levels of seniority. Any single one of them was the great-grandfather of Changyang Ba. He even had to bow to them whenever he saw them as a junior. This force was even more beyond Changyang Ba's control. As a result, Changyang Ba's name was renowned as the patriarch of the Changyang clan that was enough to shake the continent, but the power he possessed, particularly in regard to experts at sainthood, was pitifully weak. It was a complete mismatch to his status. It was exactly because of this that Bai Lian had stationed 5 divine guards of the flame at the Changyang clan. They were completely loyal to Changyang Ba and formed a force that the patriarch of the clan could control. At the same time, they could play the role of striking awe in people. Changyang Ba returned to the Changyang clan accompanied by the 5 guards. He immediately entered seclusion to recover his lost saint force. The 5 divine guards of the flame were only guards in name, but since they were Saint Kings, they possessed great statuses in the Changyang clan. Even the direct descendants of the clan showed much respect to the 5 of them, and they all possessed their own small courtyard in the clan. The courtyards stood in the center, north, south, east, and west in the clan, guarding the clan from all directions. In a certain sense, they had become the protectors of the clan. Whenever the patriarch of the Changyang clan ventured out, the 5 guards would follow along. The 5 guards would cultivate in seclusion at other times and would only appear when the patriarch required them. 3 days later, Changyang Ba recovered some saint force and emerged to find Bai Yuntian. When Jianchen and Shangguan Mu'er left the continent 3 years ago, Jianchen had left the saint artifact with Bai Yuntian. Bai Yuntian's strength rapidly increased while cultivating in it, having become a Class 7 Radiant Saint Master. She was like a saint ruler now, possessing a lifespan of 3,000 years. As a result, time was unable to leave a trace on her face. Even though she was already in her 60s, she looked half that age. Changyang Ba dismissed all the servants in a beautiful garden within the clan and sat in a jade-white pavilion with Bai Yuntian. The entire pavilion was covered by a barrier. "Husband, what's so important that you want to discuss it with me, and why are you so cautious?" Bai Yuntian's interest was immediately piqued when she saw Changyang Ba raise a barrier around the pavilion. Changyangba sat on the stone seats and gently sipped his tea. Not only have the heavenly resources left behind by Xiang'er allowed my strength to increase drastically, but my talent's been completely altered as well, allowing me to reach Saint King in just a few short decades and obtain the hope of becoming a Saint Emperor. At the same time, the world around us is undergoing some changes that none of us understand. The sovereigns in the Divine Hall have said that the changes are making the laws of the world more complete, so not only will our cultivation become much easier, but overcoming bottlenecks will become less difficult as well. And this change will gradually affect Saint Kings and Saint Emperors as time goes on, so with these changes, I want to abdicate my position as Patriarch and focus on cultivation. Who do you plan on passing the position to? Bai Yuntian was unperturbed. Several decades ago, her greatest wish was that Jian Chen could inherit the title of Patriarch, but that position was nothing in Bai Yuntian's eyes now. Changyangba sighed at the sky. The person most suitable for inheriting the position would definitely be Xiang'er, but even if I ignore whether he is interested in it or not, just his accomplishments are enough that the position no longer interests him. The next most suitable person would be Ahu, but he's severed his emotions and desires and cut himself away from his family to cultivate in the Pure Heart Pavilion. There's only Kur left among my 4 sons and daughters. Bai Yuntian nonchalantly smiled. Among your 4 children, Ahu, Mingyue and Xiang'er are all very capable. They all possess their own matters. Only Kur has no accomplishments so far. I don't mind if you pass the title to him. Alright, since even you've said it. I'll get Uncle Chang to announce the matter. In a week's time, Kur will formally inherit the title. Changyangba smiled in content. He did not need to ask anyone else, nor did he have to ask for the opinions of other important members of the clan. The successor of the clan had just been decided by Bai Yuntian and Changyangba. The news that the patriarch of the Changyang clan was about to step down and pass the title onto Changyangku quickly spread. In less than a day, it spread across the Tianyuan continent, the Beast God continent, the Sea Realm, and the Wasteland continent. It was so significant that the 3 great empires on the continent could not compare, and they gained a new emperor. This was all because the current Changyang clan was the strongest human experts clan. The current patriarch was Jian Chen's father, and the person who was about to inherit the title was Jian Chen's brother. Because of how Jian Chen was related to them, the ordinary abdication became an extraordinary event on the continent. Among the 4 races, many Saint Kings and Saint Emperors, including some of those in charge of large organizations, had all received Jian Chen's kindness, so as soon as they received news of the abdication, they began preparing great gifts, ready to go to the Changyang clan in 7 days to congratulate Changyangku. At the same time, Changyangku and his wife were extremely jubilant in a luxurious hall in the clan as well. In a few days, you'll be the patriarch of the Changyang clan. At that time, your name will definitely become renowned across the entire continent. The 3 other races might even learn your name. The speaker was a woman who seemed to be in her 30s. She was rather beautiful, and the way she acted and behaved indicated that she came from a prominent family. There were traces of haughtiness on her face, making it easy to discern that she was a treasured daughter who grew up in a large clan. This woman was Changyangku's wife. Her name was Xia Yan, and they had been married for many years now. They had a son as well, who had just turned 20. As the only wife of Changyangku, Xia Yan enjoyed an extraordinary status in the clan. She had been gifted a 100,000-year-old heavenly resource to change her constitution, allowing her to morph and gain great talent, so she was a heaven saint master already, despite her young age. Of course, the heavenly resource originated from Jian Chen. Changyangku seemed much more mature. He was a middle-aged man in his 30s, possessing the gentleness of a scholar. His strength had reached Saint Ruler because of Jian Chen as well. Changyangku was absolutely ecstatic right now. He never thought that his father would pass on the title of patriarch to him. It was something he had never expected. Among Changyangba's 4 children, he was the least capable. He probably would have only become an Earth Saint Master if it were not for Jian Chen. He would never have been able to reach Saint Ruler. Even though he had become a Saint Ruler now, he still felt like he was a nobody. His sister and younger brother were just far too dazzling. They had both become Origin Realm experts. Under their radiance, Changyangku's achievement of becoming a saint ruler seemed insignificant. Not to mention the fact that saint rulers no longer hid from the public, saint kings appeared regularly, and saint emperors were not basically extinct. As a puny saint ruler in an age where every sainthood experts had emerged, he seemed even more insignificant. However, his status as patriarch of the Changyang clan was completely different. Was there anyone who did not know about the Changyang clan among the four races? Was there anyone? As long as he could become the patriarch, he would possess an extraordinary status even if he was not very powerful. The status would allow him to truly raise his head in pride. More importantly, he would be able to order the 5 powerful divine guards of the flame as the patriarch of the clan. It was a tremendous honor to be able to control 5 saint kings who were beyond the 5th heavenly layer. He might even be able to control some forces from the flame mercenaries when the need arose. Changyangku had never thought that he would possess so much authority one day. Father, congratulations for being chosen and inheriting the title as patriarch. A handsome young man knelt on the ground as happily congratulated his father. He seemed rather similar to Changyangku, and there was uncontainable pride on his face. He was Changyangku and Xia Yan's son, Changyangsu. He was Changyangku's only child. Currently, no one knew that Shangguan Aojian was Jian Chen's son aside from Shangguan Mu'er, Shao Qian, Shao Yu, Qin Qin, Yu Yu, and so on. As a result, Changyang Su had become Changyang Ba's only grandson, so he was obviously spoiled by Changyang Ba. When Changyang Su was young, Changyang Ba used many precious heavenly resources to create medicinal baths for Changyang Su. He used heavenly resources to purify Changyang Su's body, consuming countless 1,000-year-old, countless 10,000-year-old, and several 10,000-year-old heavenly resources. Without any exaggeration, he had basically grown up soaking in medicinal baths. Even Jian Chen did not go through something like this when he was young. As a result, he possessed extremely great potential. His cultivation advanced at a rapid rate. He could also view any battle skills and cultivation methods in the clan. After all, with the clan's current status, there was no need to carefully guard their various battle skills and cultivation method anymore. Changyang Su did not disappoint Changyang Ba. He had become a great saint master at the age of 20. At his age, many people had only just condensed their saint weapons. Even the direct descendants of a few ancient clans did not possess accomplishments like Changyang Su. In his generation, Changyang Su had become the greatest expert both in name and reality. Coupled with his exalted background, he looked down on everyone he saw. Changyang Ku finally showed some pride as he looked at Changyang Su. He admitted that he was the least capable of his siblings, but he believed that he had surpassed his elder and younger brother in terms of the younger generation. Su'er, you must work hard on cultivation. You have to become like your second uncle and make your father proud, Changyang Ku said with a heavy heart. He held very high expectations for his son. Father, my future goal is to surpass my uncle and replace him as the greatest human expert, Changyang Su said ambitiously and conceitedly. Changyang Ku immediately frowned when he heard that Changyang Su wanted to replace Jian Chen. He said sternly, Su'er, it's all because of your uncle that you have reached your current accomplishments at such an age. You have to show some respect to your uncle, alright? Okay, father, I'll respect my uncle, Changyang Su replied with a disapproving tone. He had only seen his legendary uncle a few times when he was younger. Xia Yan glared at Changyang Ku, why are you so stern? We should be happy that Su'er has the mindset of surpassing his uncle, and we shouldn't scold him for that. Don't you want to see your child stand at the very apex of the continent? A resolute young man strolled through the streets of the city of God. Beside him were 2 women in white dresses. They seemed to be in their 20s and possessed great beauty. They would attract the attention of many wherever they went and take people's breaths away. At this moment, the news that Changyang Ku was about to inherit the position as patriarch arrived. Every family heard the news, and it shocked the entire city in the blink of an eye. Changyang Ku. Isn't that my uncle? The young man's face changed when he heard the news. Xiao Bao, your grandfather's about to abdicate and your uncle will take over. With the current fame of the Changyang clan, the ceremony will definitely be extremely grand. There will definitely be many experts who will take part in it on that day. Do you want to go and have a look? One of the women beside him said with a pleasant and beautiful voice. Sister Xiao Qian, Sister Xiao Yu, let's go have a look. He's my uncle after all. I should go and see grandfather and grandmother when my uncle inherits the position, the young man said with some mixed feelings. The young man was Shangguan Aojin. The two women beside him were the two saintesses from Three Saint Island, as well as the disciples of the heavenly enchantress, Xiao Qian and Xiao Yu. Chapter 1573. The sixth layer of the chaotic body. There was a dark sky in a dreary world. There was no sun, no moon, and no stars. The ground was desolate. There were no signs of life as far as the eye could see. The land was filled with a deathly silence. A young man, who seemed to be in his 20s, currently sat in the center of that world. Two swords hovered before him, one shining with an azure light while the other let out a violet light. A roaring flame in the young man's hand gave off a terrifying heat. He was currently refining the two glowing swords. At a closer glance, it was quite obvious that the two swords were covered in a layer of thin cracks. The cracks were extremely dense, spanning the swords like a spider's web. The cracked swords were gradually being repaired by the terrifying flames. Although they were not being repaired at an extremely fast rate, cracks would completely disappear if this continued. The young man was Jian Chen. He had remained there for 3 whole years. Of course, those 3 years were only applicable to the outside world. In that hazy gray world, there was obviously no difference between day and night with the absence of the sun, moon, and stars. It was impossible to sense the flow of time in such an environment because the surroundings never changed. He had no idea how much time had passed whenever he went into secluded cultivation. Over the past 3 years, Jian Chen and Shangguan Mu'er had always been cultivating by absorbing the yin and yang qi from the yin-yang saint rock. Both of their strengths had drastically increased every passing day during those 3 years. Shangguan Mu'er's improvement rate was so fast that she even surpassed Jian Chen. Jian Chen's chaotic body remained at the 5th layer. Although the amount of energy he had absorbed across the 3 years was not enough for his chaotic body to reach the 6th layer, his chaotic Niden was now full. If he continued, he would break through very soon. Since each layer of the chaotic body required 10 times more than the last, Jian Chen's cultivation became more difficult the further he advanced. Jian Chen sat there as he transformed chaotic force into chaotic flames to repair the twin swords. Even though the fusion of the swords had failed, it had still damaged them, causing the sword spirits to become weak. However, the damage this time was not extremely severe. He just needed to spend some time refining them again and the cracks would disappear. Jian Chen had no idea how much time he had spent repairing the swords in this world that had no sense of time. In the end, he finally fixed all the cracks on the twin swords. Even though the sword spirits were still rather weak, the swords looked the same as when they were first refined. They let out dazzling glows. Jian Chen stood up after the swords had been repaired. He stood on the Ziying sword and shot off into the distance in a single instance as a streak of violet light. In the blink of an eye, Jian Chen appeared several dozen kilometers away. A single earthen hut stood there on the dreary ground. It seemed simple, but powerful pulses of energy emanated from it. The earthen hut had been grown from the ground through Shangguan Mu'er's techniques, so it was extremely tough even though it looked like an ordinary hut. Jian Chen stood outside and stared at the hut. His gaze seemed to be able to pass through the walls, and when he saw what was happening inside, a sliver of gentleness appeared in his eyes. Mu'er still hasn't refined the yin and yang qi. Looks like I'll have to wait outside for a while, thought Jian Chen. He was used to waiting after the past 3 years. Whenever the two of them absorbed the yin and yang qi, he would always refine the energy extremely quickly because of his chaotic body. However, Shangguan Mu'er always required more time than Jian Chen. Whenever they absorbed the yin and yang qi, Shangguan Mu'er would take 10 days or even half a month, while Jian Chen only needed 3 days. However, Jian Chen would not dare to absorb the yin and yang qi without Shangguan Mu'er. If he did, it would mean certain death. As a result, Jian Chen could only wait patiently while Shangguan Mu'er refined her energy. At this moment, the door to the earthen hut slowly opened. Shangguan Mu'er appeared at the entrance and slowly walked out. "Mu'er, you've emerged." Jian Chen immediately smiled. Shangguan Mu'er sweetly smiled in return. Her smile immediately made the world around her seem dull. Even with Jian Chen's mental fortitude, he still could not help but feel stunned. "I've already reached returnance. If this continues, I'll be able to reach reciprocity in a few years' time." Shangguan Mu'er smiled. She was in a cheerful mood. Shangguan Mu'er had completely forgotten about their dispute after 3 years of being together. Her impression of Jian Chen had only improved, and she now truly admitted that they were a couple. Shangguan Mu'er's heart was no longer cold. Perhaps due to Jian Chen's influence or the change in her relationship with her father, she thought through a lot of things and gradually became more outgoing. Although she could not be compared to some other lively women, there would still be a sliver of a smile on her face from time to time. A smile was extremely rare in the past. "My chaotic body is about to break through to the 6th layer as well." Jian Chen smiled, before making his way over to where the rock was with Shangguan Mu'er. When Jian Chen arrived, he immediately frowned upon seeing the rock. He became stern. He stared at the rock for quite some time before saying, "Oh no, the evil power-absorbing yin-yang saint rock has actually sped up." Jian Chen's voice was very serious. Shangguan Mu'er became extremely stern as well. Her enchanting eyes were fixated on the red light hidden within the rock, and she sensed that the situation was bad. She knew extremely well just how powerful the rock was. It was small, but the amount of energy it possessed was terrifying, enough to shock any Origin Realm expert. The evil power's growth rate was extremely astonishing as it absorbed the yin and yang qi from the rock. If this continued, she could not imagine just how powerful the evil energy would be once it broke free. "Jian Chen, what are we going to do? Are we just going to let this evil power continue to strengthen?" Shangguan Mu'er asked. She was also very solemn. Both her and Jian Chen feared the evil power because just a single glance at the red light within the rock was enough to make them shiver. They had met many different experts throughout their lives. Jian Chen, in particular, had even seen God Kings before. However, he had not experienced such an intense feeling even while dealing with God Kings. Jian Chen helplessly shook his head. "There's nothing we can do. We can't touch the rock. The evil power's hidden within, so we can only watch as it rapidly strengthens. The only thing we can do is absorb more yin and yang qi so that our difference in strength with the evil power is reduced." Jian Chen was extremely certain now that the evil power was the source of the disaster of the world. Although he possessed the primordial god silk, which existed to counter the disaster, he had no idea how to use it to stop the disaster. He did not even know how to use it in general. Even the sword spirits were unable to give him an exact answer. The only thing he was certain about was that the power from the primordial god silk would awaken at a crucial moment in time. Jian Chen and Shangguan Mu'er dared not waste any time due to the threat of the evil power. They immediately began to absorb the yin and yang qi, using the dual cultivation method to balance it out. It would take them 3 days to absorb it, and after that, they would leave and enter seclusion to refine that energy. Jian Chen's chaotic body was at the cusp of breaking through after 3 years of absorption. After absorbing some more energy, his chaotic body finally broke through to the 6th layer. His body underwent the painful process of reforging itself once again, becoming even more powerful than before. The 6th layer of the chaotic body is equivalent to the 9th heavenly layer of Saint Emperor. Jian Chen silently sensed his strength. With his familiarity of the system used on the Tianyuan continent, he immediately discerned the power of the sixth layer. The ninth heavenly layer of Saint Emperor was nowhere near Shangguan Moor's power at returnance, but Jian Shen believed that his battle prowess had far exceeded what he had been capable of at the fifth layer. He was only able to achieve a stalemate with Xiong Zhong while his chaotic body at the fifth layer, where he even sort of lost the upper hand. In the end, he relied on his recovery rate as a Class 9 Radiant Saint Master to emerge victorious. But, now that Jian Shen had reached the sixth layer of the chaotic body, he still belonged to the level of Saint Emperors according to the divisions on the Tian Yuan continent, but he believed he was now powerful enough to fight against Ouyang Yangwen. Chapter 1574. Congratulations from everywhere. Jian Shen's chaotic body had reached the sixth layer, but that clearly was still not enough to fend off the world of Forsaken Saints. Jian Shen knew that even though his strength was increasing, it did not mean his enemy's strength was not increasing as well. Moreover, his final opponent was not Ouyang Yangwen but the Reciprocity Spirit King, who was no weaker than a godhood expert. Godhood, Jian Shen murmured. His eyes glowed brighter. They were filled with eagerness. He knew that it was extremely difficult to make the chaotic body reach a level where he could fight against godhood experts in a lower world. However, there was the Yinyang Saint Rock here. With its assistance, reaching godhood was not impossible. He just needed a lot of time. Jian Shen began to wait and became bored once again. However, he was unwilling to waste any time. Even when he could not absorb the energy from the rock, he would use the time to cultivate, to comprehend the way of the sword as well as the various sword techniques the sword spirits had passed on to him. Today happened to be the day when Changyang Ba would step down as patriarch and pass the title on to his second son, Changyang Ku. This matter had caused quite the commotion on the Tian Yuan continent a few days ago. Basically everyone knew about it. The experts from the four races traveled several tens of million kilometers to congratulate the new patriarch of the clan with rich gifts. A few experts had already arrived at the Changyang clan when the sky was just beginning to brighten, before the sun was even visible on the horizon. As time went on, more and more people from the four races gathered in the Changyang clan. These people all possessed a certain level of status in their own territories, and there were many Saint Emperors among them. Basically all the Saint Emperors among the four races had broken through because of the immortal peaches. As a result, they were all indebted to Jian Shen. They would never be able to repay this favor, but they would be able to repay the clan Jian Shen came from. This was why so many Saint Emperors personally turned up to the establishment of the new patriarch. It was all because of Jian Shen. Very soon, the Changyang clan was full. Since too many people had come and many of them possessed great statuses, even if the hall in the Changyang clan was enlarged several times, it would not be able to hold so many people. As a result, Changyang Ba moved the ceremony to the main courtyard. There, a saint king who could control earth-attributed saint force raised a stage, and currently, no one stood on the stage. Many saint emperors and authoritative figures of large organizations stood below. Even though Changyang Ba was Jian Shen's father, he could not just sit above all those saint emperors and command people before the ceremony had begun. The elven queen from the wasteland continent has arrived with the precious gift of the elves, 100 droplets of dew of life. The master of ceremonies' voice constantly reverberated about, surprising many people every time he spoke. 100 droplets of dew of life. The elven queen sure is extravagant. Droplets of dew of life are the supreme treasure of the elves. It's said that only a single droplet appears every century. Not only can it increase your strength, but each droplet also possesses tremendous life force. Even if you're at death's door, you can be saved with a single droplet of the dew. Moreover, it's said that the dew can change the constitution of people and alter talent. A single droplet of dew of life is a priceless treasure. It's impossible to get a price for it, because only the elves can produce it. The elven queens actually gifted 100 droplets. That's 10,000 years worth, the dwarven king from the wasteland continent has arrived with a gift of 100,000-year-old heavenly resource and 5 10,000-year-old heavenly resources. Sanxiong of the beast god continent has arrived with a gift of 300,000-year-old heavenly resources and 10 10,000-year-old heavenly resources. The patriarch of the tiger clan from the beast god continent has arrived with a gift of 500,000-year-old heavenly resources, 20 10,000-year-old heavenly resources, many thousand-year-old heavenly resources, a single Class 9 monster core, 5 Class 8 monster cores, and a tiger cub from the direct line of descent. The people in the Changyang clan immediately began to discuss with one another as the gifts from the tiger clan patriarch was announced. Many people were amazed. His gifts were worth even more than what Sanxiong was giving away. He even gave away a tiger cub from the direct line of descent. That was equivalent to giving his own descendant to the Changyang clan. The patriarch of the tiger clan has his problems. The tiger emperor offended the winged tiger god in the past and even attempted to kill it. It's said that the tiger emperor is directly responsible for the winged tiger god's father's death. The patriarch is afraid that the winged tiger god will drag the tiger clan into its fury, which is why it's trying to establish good ties with the Changyang clan. He wants to use the Changyang clan to protect his own clansmen. After all, the tiger emperor committed heinous crimes in the past. Even wiping out the entire tiger clan would not be enough of a punishment. A few human saint kings quietly spoke to each other. They looked at the patriarch of the tiger clan sympathetically. The tiger emperor's schemes against the winged tiger god had nothing to do with the tiger clan. However, the tiger emperor was still a part of the clan. He was their ruler, so the tiger clan was dragged into the matter anyway. The punishment for treason among humans would be killing off anyone related to the criminal within 9 generations. The tiger emperor had committed treason against the winged tiger god, so by the tradition of magical beasts, that was enough of a reason to wipe out the entire clan. The tiger emperor was dead now and the winged tiger god had never shown any intentions of devastating the tiger clan, but the patriarch still felt uneasy. He wanted to establish good ties with the Changyang clan. His entire clan paid dearly in gifts now that the opportunity had opened up to them. He had basically gifted away everything valuable in the clan. The ancestral emperor of the Felicity Empire has arrived with the gift of 3 heaven-tier battle skills, a saint-tier cultivation method and 3 10,000-year-old heavenly resources. The patriarch of the Tiamu clan has arrived with a gift of 5 10,000-year-old heavenly resources. The great elder of the Tyrant's Blade School has arrived with a gift. The emissary from the Sea Goddess Hall has arrived with a gift. People from all 4 races had gathered here for the ceremony. Although the sainthood experts from the Sea Realm were still stuck with their shift in the Supreme Divine Hall, they had sent representatives to congratulate Changyang Ku. The representatives brought rich gifts with them, including countless heavenly resources, battle skills, cultivation methods, and so on. The Changyang clan had obtained an incalculable amount of wealth from this single event. Changyang Ba and Changyang Ku smiled as they received the many guests. As Changyang Ba's only grandson, Changyang Ba had always spoiled Changyang Su, pouring large amounts of effort into his growth. Coupled with his current achievements, Changyang Ba spoiled him even more. Changyang Su followed Changyang Ba around the ceremony this time, and whenever he would converse with guests of exalted status, he would never forget to introduce Changyang Su. Pride would flood his face whenever he mentioned Changyang Su. Changyang Su had become a great saint master at the young age of 20. Even across the entire continent, there was rarely anyone who could match his speed. Coupled with the fact that he was Changyang Ba's grandson, the guests constantly praised him. Many of the guests brought up the matter of engaging their great-granddaughters, who were of similar age, to him. Changyang Su was unable to contain his arrogance from all the praise. He maintained a polite appearance before important people, but he looked down on anyone and everyone around his age. He even looked down on a few hermit clans. As for the engagements, Changyang Su never took them to heart. With his great background and talent, his tastes had gone overboard. To him, there were many saint emperors among the people who proposed marriages, but their great-granddaughters were countless generations away from them. Even they themselves had no idea how many great-granddaughters they had. They maybe had a few dozen, or a few hundred. After all, huge extended families were common for people who had lived thousands of years. However, he was the only son of the Changyang clan patriarch now. How were any of the plentiful female descendants of large clans worthy of him? Moreover, the saint emperors had all broken through because of his uncle. Is he my grandfather? The person beside him should be my uncle, Changyang Ku. Is that young man beside grandfather my younger brother, Changyang Su? In the crowd, Shangguan Aojin spotted Changyang Ba, Changyang Ku, and Changyang Su from afar. He mumbled to himself in a voice that only he could hear. Shangguan Aojin had come to Lore City during his journeys in the past and had heard many matters regarding his father. However, he had never personally seen his grandfather or grandmother. That's right. Xiao Bao, he's your grandfather, Changyang Ba. However, we've only heard things about your uncle from time to time. We've never seen him before. After all, he's maintained too low of a profile. Xiao Qian smiled while standing beside Shangguan Aojin. Xiao Bao, do you want to go and tell your grandfather who you are? Look at the son of your uncle. He's only just a great saint master, yet your grandfather adores him so much. If your grandfather found out he had such an impressive grandchild, he would probably be absolutely ecstatic, Xiao Yu said from one side as well. She spoke through a communication technique since she did not wish other people to overhear her. Shangguan Aojin shook his head. Father's not here, nor is mother. If I say that I'm Jian Chen's son in a situation like this, do you think anyone will believe me? Also, outsiders don't know about the relationship between my father and mother. I even suspect that my grandfather and grandmother don't know about their relationship. Xiao Qian and Xiao Yu frowned. One of them said with some hesitance, "You're right. If you go and tell them who you are, not only will no one believe you, but people will laugh and jeer at you." Chapter 1575, Brothers Meet. There was a group of young men, who seemed to be in their 20s, suspiciously huddled together near Shangguan Aojin. They all wore luxurious robes and were staring at Shangguan Aojin's group of three. However, their gazes remained fixated on Xiao Qian or Xiao Yu most of the time. Surprise filled their faces while infatuation flooded their eyes. Hua Fanyan, Lu Qing, Zhou Xiaohua, Ala Duogong, you see those two women. They're rare beauties. I never thought that I'd see such good stuff today, coming to the Changyang clan with my great-grandfather, a young man whispered. He wore azure robes and appeared elegant and handsome. However, he also seemed slightly frivolous. The gaze he sent towards Xiao Qian and Xiao Yu was filled with infatuation. Of course I see them. Speaking of which, I've played with many beauties as I've grown up and many of them aren't any worse than the two women there. However, those treasured daughters of large clans seem to lack something compared to those two women, and ever since I caught a glance of the two of them, I suddenly feel like all the women I played around with in the past are nothing special. Zhou Xiaohua snapped open his fan. He stared at Xiao Qian and Xiao Yu, catching a glimpse of them from time to time through the crowd. You idiot, it's because those two women possess an otherworldly beauty. They look like goddesses and possess a sacred appearance. Even though the women you played around with were beauties, they did not have that bearing, Lu Qing said while standing beside Zhou Xiaohua. The young men gathered together were all descendants from large clans or organizations. If they were not from the imperial family of the three great empires, then they were from ancient clans. They possessed extraordinary statuses. And who's that young man? What does he belong to? He really does make me envious, having two beauties following him around. If I could be served by two women like that, I'd be willing to give up my position as a candidate as the next emperor, said Hua Fanyan. The gaze he sent towards Shangguan Aojin was filled with envy as well as some uncontainable jealousy. Ala Duogong's gaze was fixated on Xiao Qian and Xiao Yu as well. He was basically salivating over them. His drool was almost leaking out of his mouth. He had also played with many women in the past, but he had never seen anyone with bearing like them. The women he had played around were nothing special compared to the two women before him. I have to find a way to take the two of them away with me. Ala Duogong rubbed his hands. He liked Xiao Qian and Xiao Yu more and more as he stared at them for longer and longer. He wanted to take them for himself. Moreover, he was confident that he had the ability to take them away. He came from an ancient clan and his ancestor was one of the few saint emperors on the continent. Hua Fanyan smacked Ala Duogong's head and told him off. Duogong, why don't you have a look at where you are? This is the Changyang clan, not your Ala clan. They'll never belong to us. Let's go find our man Su and tell him about them. His father's about to become the patriarch of the Changyang clan. He's the only son of the patriarch, so he'll become the young master of the clan. He'll become the patriarch sooner or later as well. Let's use this time to consolidate our relationship with him. He'll be able to assist us when we take power. Hua Fanyan took out a piece of white jade from his space ring and immediately crushed it. Hua Fanyan had known Changyang Su for many years now. As a member of an empire's imperial family, he was adept at forming groups so that he could consolidate his status and expand his influence. He had become acquainted with Changyang Su, and it didn't matter how much it had cost him a few years ago, but it would help him become a viable candidate as the crown prince. After some purposefully orchestrated events, he finally established ties with Changyang Su. Although Changyang Su had never treated him with any importance despite being a part of the imperial family, Hua Fanyan did not mind. He maintained the appearance of a yes-man before Changyang Su. To him, as long as he could cling on to Changyang Su, he might even gain enough power to compete for the position of crown prince and emerge victorious. Changyang Su was currently beside Changyang Ba, constantly greeting the representatives from various large organizations. Changyang Su appeared extremely obedient before the older people, constantly bowing to them and politely greeting them. At this moment, Changyang Su's face changed. He could sense that his piece of jade in his space ring had been shattered. He had given Hua Fanyan the other piece of jade that was entangled with it. Hua Fanyan had always followed him around the past few years, basically abiding by everything he said, gradually allowing the arrogant Changyang Su to admit Hua Fanyan's existence. Changyang Su had gifted him a piece of jade so that he could use to contact him when important matters arose. Changyang Su approved of Hua Fanyan following him, but he never treated him as a friend. Most of the time, Hua Fanyan was just a follower in his eyes. What does Hua Fanyan want at a time like this? Changyang Su was curious, but he clearly could not leave. Finally, noon approached. The ceremony was about to start. Changyang Ba and Changyang Ku appeared on the platform while Changyang Su finally had the time to go see Hua Fanyan and the others. Hua Fanyan immediately dismissed his dignified appearance as a member of an imperial family when he saw Changyang Su. He went up to greet him with a face full of smiles, telling Changyang Su about the two beauties he had seen in great detail in an attempt to curry up to Changyang Su. Even the other young men around Hua Fanyan had erased their arrogance. They also surrounded Changyang Su and added to the conversation, as if Changyang Su had become their master at that moment. Changyang Su stood there emotionlessly. His sharp eyes would sweep across his surroundings from time to time, as if he could not be bothered. After listening to them describe the women, he asked with some suspicion, "Are the two women you speak of really that pretty?" Changyang Su did not waver due to what they said. He had seen many alluring beauties, especially in recent years. Countless large organizations had come to propose marriages and all of the women were great beauties, but he always looked down on them because he believed none of them were worthy of him. Although they were all beautiful, he believed that it was only a matter of waving his hand if he wanted a woman like them and a great group of people would obediently arrive at his doorstep. "I'm completely certain. If you don't believe us, we'll take you over to have a look. You definitely won't be disappointed. Only divine women like that are worthy of you." The young men immediately took Changyang Su with them through the crowd, headed to Shengguan Aojian's location. All the guests who were in the way would smile and nod when they saw Changyang Su. They would then give way extremely obediently. Very soon, Changyang Su found Shangguan Aojian under the lead of the young men. However, when he saw Shao Qian and Xiao Yu, he became deeply absorbed and could no longer shift his gaze away. How's it? They don't disappoint, do they? Hua Fenyun smiled on one side. What he had just done would definitely give Changyang Su a better impression of him. He knew that just from Changyang Su's expression. Good. 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 Hua Fenyun, you really haven't disappointed me this time. Changyang Su agreed with them. The moment he saw Shao Qian and Xiao Yu, he became infatuated by their otherworldly beauty. None of the women he had seen in the past possessed their charm. Hua Fenyun immediately became overjoyed by Changyang Su's praise. He could not contain his giggles. Changyang Su stepped toward Shao Qian and Xiao Yu. He completely ignored Shangguan Aojian. Shangguan Aojian seemed to sense something as he stood in the crowd. He turned toward Changyang Su and could not help but smile slightly. However, his smile gradually froze because he discovered that his younger brother's gaze remained fixated on his two sisters. Changyang Su arrived before Shao Qian and Xiao Yu. He clasped his fists at the two of them and said, "My lovely ladies, I am Changyang Su. Changyang Ku is my father, and I welcome you in my father's stead to the ceremony." A strange expression filled Shao Qian and Xiao Yu's face. They both turned to Shangguan Aojian and paid no attention to Changyang Su. On the other hand, Shangguan Aojian's face darkened. It became extremely ugly. The gaze he sent toward Changyang Su gradually became filled with a vicious light. Changyang Su frowned when Shao Qian and Xiao Yu paid no attention to him and instead looked at Shangguan Aojian, who he did not even consider. He became displeased. To him, the two of them should have immediately stated their identities and names since he had gone up to them out of his own accord as the young master of the Changyang clan. "The young master's talking to you? Don't you have ears?" A young man who followed Changyang Su spoke before Changyang Su could say anything else. His gaze was not kind in the slightest. However, he had angered Shangguan Aojian due to what he had said. Shangguan Aojian's eyes immediately became extremely sharp. He coldly said, "If you keep speaking like that, do you believe that I won't cut out your tongue? Even your great-grandfather won't be able to save you then." The young man immediately became surprised and shut up. The experts in the Changyang clan were as common as clouds. People from all four races had come, so if he was careless, he could have offended an organization he could not afford to offend. Although he had befriended Changyang Su, he was still not willing to offend a powerful organization. Since the mysterious young man before him could afford to say something like that, he was from a powerful organization without a single doubt. The young men around Changyang Su were frightened. They all obediently stood behind Changyang Su. Before they learned the young man's identity, they were unwilling to offend him. Whatever happened next would obviously be up to Changyang Su. After all, he was the young master of the Changyang clan. With the clan as his background, there was no need for him to fear any organization in the world. "Sir, who are you?" Changyang Su coldly asked. Although he had guessed that the young man before him possessed an extraordinary status, he did not take it to heart because he was the young master of the Changyang clan as well as the only and most beloved grandson of Changyang Ba. I'm your elder brother," Shangguan Aojian coldly responded as disappointment filled his face. He had been eager to see the younger brother he had never met before, but he had now discovered that his brother was just far too disappointing. Chapter 1576. Young Island Master Shangguan Aojian had boldly and confidently said that he was Changyang Su's elder brother. In reality, only his father and Changyang Su's father were brothers. Shangguan Aojian was a few years older than Changyang Su, so it was rather obvious that he was like an elder brother to Changyang Su. That was unquestionable. However, the meaning of the phrase had completely changed when Changyang Su heard it. It had become a provocation, a humiliation. Changyang Su was the young master of the Changyang clan. His great status, coupled with his great arrogance, made it impossible for him to endure the humiliating phrase. Suddenly, Changyang Su's presence drastically changed. At that moment, he seemed to have become a drawn sword, erupting with a sharp, swift, and powerful presence. Of course, the presence was only powerful among the people of his age. His presence as a great saint master was nothing in the Changyang clan, where many experts had gathered. However, many people noticed Changyang Su erupting, but they did not treat it as anything important. In the eyes of these monstrous existences that had lived for thousands of years, they treated it as a fight among kids. Changyang Ba and Changyang Ku obviously noticed this matter as well, but they were currently on stage and were the center of attention, so they were unable to stop the disturbance. "Sir, what did you just say? May you repeat it?" Changyang Su glared at Shangguan Aojin. He had already locked onto Shangguan Aojin's presence. It appeared like he would start fighting as soon as Shangguan Aojin uttered another word that displeased him. In his tight robes, Shangguan Aojin calmly stood there with his arms crossed. His lips curled up as if he was looking at a joke, but his eyes, which were as sharp as an eagle's eyes, bore some coldness. He calmly said, "You're actually threatening your older brother." "I'm your older brother, so can I ask what you plan on doing?" Shangguan Aojin spoke very nonchalantly, but he gently sighed inside. He had heard about his younger brother long ago, about the achievements he had attained at such a young age, and even Shangguan Aojin found them to be pretty impressive. Originally, he had been quite eager to see the brother he had never met, but after coming to the clan and seeing Changyang Su's poor behavior again and again, he was just left disappointed. How dare you? I don't care who you are or where you come from. You won't be able to leave so easily after coming to our Changyang clan to make trouble and provoke us. You have offended the dignity of the clan, Changyang Su furiously exclaimed. His face revealed his anger. A coldness also lingered on his face as well. He had never thought that the unknown young man before him would be so daring. The man before him clearly had no inkling that he was the young master of the clan, but the man before him wanted to dominate him by claiming that he was his elder brother. How could Changyang Su endure something like this, having grown up spoiled? As his right hand moved, a rather powerful saint force surged out and rapidly condensed into a saint weapon. He mercilessly stabbed at Shangguan Aojin. In the Changyang clan, other people would probably fear offending the clan and, thus, avoid fighting, but Changyang Su was not afraid because the current patriarch was his grandfather while his father was about to become the patriarch. With the affection he had received from his grandfather and father, he was confident that he would get off with no punishment for any trouble he made. At most, he would be lectured a few times because there was no longer anything that the Changyang clan could not deal with its current status. Moreover, he also knew that all the saint emperors in the world owed his uncle a favor, so even if the young man was supported by a saint emperor, the saint emperor would not be able to say a single thing. Many of the sainthood experts gathered in the surroundings began to watch. None of them decided to interfere. They all felt like what Shangguan Aojin had said really had gone overboard. However, many of them also made guesses as to who Xiao Bao, Xiao Qian, and Xiao Yu were, since Xiao Bao was bold enough to provoke the young master of the clan in public and even boast that he was the young master's elder brother. Shangguan Aojin did seem slightly older than Changyang Su, but he still could not claim that randomly. After all, their difference in status was just far too great. Shangguan Aojin stood with his arms crossed. Faced with Changyang Su's attack, he showed no intentions of dodging. However, his gaze became even colder the moment Changyang Su stabbed out. Xiao Qian and Xiao Yu stood there at ease as well. They watched the two brothers in interest and would gently smile from time to time. "Suer, do not be rude." When Changyang Su's sword was only 3 inches away from Shangguan Aojin, a dignified voice rang out. At the same time, the space around Changyang Su froze, immobilizing his saint weapon. Changyang Su had used his saint weapon. Changyang Ba was no longer able to ignore what was going on, so he stopped Changyang Su. "Grandfather, let me go. This brat's insulted me. I have to teach him a lesson today. I just can't bear it," Changyang Su loudly cried out with much unwillingness. He felt no fear and Shangguan Aojian's look was condescending. "Suer, you still don't shut up. Today is the day your father inherits the position as patriarch. As your father's son, you haven't properly received the guests and even want to start fighting with them. How can you do that? Why don't you apologize to the guest?" Changyang Ba's face sank before becoming stern. "Grandfather, you don't know what happened. This ignorant person said that he was my elder brother. He's basically insulted me. I'll never apologize to him even if I die," Changyang Su furiously replied. He twisted his head away, refusing to apologize. Changyang Ba felt helpless because of Changyang Su's behavior. As his only grandson, he had already begun treating him as his own flesh and blood long ago, basically raising him in the palm of his hand. He had never beaten him or told him off. If Changyang Su had truly become angered, there was nothing he could do as a grandfather. Changyang Ba could only clasp his fist towards Shangguan Aojian, Xiao Qian, and Xiao Yu since he was in a helpless situation. He apologetically said, "I really must apologize for Suer's misbehavior. It's all because we haven't raised him correctly. If you have been offended, please forgive us. Oh right, may I ask where you are from? Once the ceremony is over, I will definitely bring Kur with me to personally apologize. You are too polite, Patriarch. I am Xiao Qian from Three Saint Island, and I greet the Patriarch. I am Xiao Yu from Three Saint Island. I greet the Patriarch." Xiao Qian and Xiao Yu clasped their hands to Changyang Ba at the same time. They were very polite. "I am Shangguan Aojian from Three Saint Island. I greet the Patriarch." Shangguan Aojian also clasped his hands at Changyang Ba and deeply bowed. He did not bow because Changyang Ba was the patriarch of the Changyang Ba, but rather because he was his grandfather. Three Saint Island. They're actually from Three Saint Island. I've heard of Xiao Qian and Xiao Yu. Aren't they the second and third island mistresses? I never thought that the two island mistresses would actually come here. Their statuses are just impressive. It's said that the heavenly enchantress is the main island mistress while the other two island mistresses are her disciple. Oh my god, the two women are actually a sovereign's disciples. No wonder they don't fear the Changyang clan. I never thought that even the disciples of a sovereign would come and attend the ceremony. When Xiao Qian and Xiao Yu's identities were revealed, there was quite an uproar in the clan. At that moment, the gazes everyone sent the three of them changed. They became filled with envy. All the experts from the four races had learned about Three Saint Island long ago since their island mistress was an Origin Realm sovereign. She had even controlled 5 Origin Realm experts from the foreign world using her zither during the battle, shocking both friends and foes alike. In the eyes of the sainthood experts, the Origin Realm would allow one to reign supreme in the world, something almost unattainable. Yet, the heavenly enchantress was able to control 5 of them. It was just too terrifying. Changyang Ba became surprised before chuckling aloud. He walked off the platform with Changyang Ku and personally went up to receive them. He smiled, "So it's the island mistresses. I failed to welcome you from afar, so please forgive me. Speaking of which, Three Saint Island and the Changyang clan are familiar with one another. I've heard Xianger mention Three Saint Island many times in the past, and he also seems to have stayed there for some time as well. He, the patriarch is correct. Master Jian Chen has indeed stayed at our island for quite some time in the past." Xiao Qian giggled and glanced at Shangguan Aojian with a profound meaning. She then pointed at Shangguan Aojian and said, "Patriarch, this is our young master." Young master. Changyang Ba was surprised once again. He could not help but properly look at Shangguan Aojian. He felt something strange from that glance. He suddenly found the young man more pleasing to the eye the longer he looked at him and took a liking of him. The surrounding guests were all surprised when they learned that Shangguan Aojian was the young island master. This was quite the status, no lesser than Changyang Su's status in the Changyang clan. He was probably the heavenly enchantress successor. Everyone came to an understanding. With Shangguan Aojian's status as the young island master, claiming to be Changyang Su's elder brother was a matter of fact. After all, his status was no lesser than Changyang Su's, and he was clearly a few years older than Changyang Su. Being the young island master is only holding an empty name. If it were not for my grandfather earlier, you would have been injured by me, said Changyang Su. He clearly did not treat Shangguan Aojian as a big deal at all. Changyang Ba's face suddenly sank. When he was about to reproach Changyang Su, Shangguan Aojian spoke instead. Brother, you can't be too proud as a person, let alone look down on everyone. You need to know that there is always someone better than you out there. You may have achieved your current accomplishments, but you need to bear in mind that the reasons you have achieved them all came from your uncle. Shangguan Aojian, even if you are the young island master, you are not greater than me. Of course I know that there is always someone better than me out there. In my generation, I am that person. Moreover, you couldn't even take a strike from my sword as a young island master. In this world, those who are weak will never have the right to speak. Changyang Su was extremely arrogant. He firmly believed that if his attack had not been stopped by his grandfather, the young island master before him would have been injured. Shangguan Aojian gently sighed and said, Brother, you're far too arrogant. If you don't change your mindset, you'll doom yourself sooner or later. Even the clan might end up dragged into your mess. As your elder brother, I have to teach you a proper lesson so that you will understand that you can never claim to be the best. Attack me. I won't move. If you can injure me even in the slightest, it'll be my loss. You're tuning into the Biyao's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.